So on March 1st, 2022, the Walt Disney Company opened their newest experiment in themed entertainment, an immersive, multi-day adventure set in the Star Wars universe. When this was first announced, everybody just called it the Star Wars Hotel. Disney World has a lot of themed hotels: safari-themed hotel, New Orleans-themed hotel, amusement park-themed hotel. So people were like, okay, they're building another one, and this time the theme is Star Wars. But this project was never intended to be like Disney's other hotels. If you stay at the amusement park-themed hotel, you're supposed to enjoy the ambiance while you're there.
Wait, why does this feel so fast already? That's normal speed. See, I can't do this on two times speed.
You're expected to leave and spend 90% of the day outside at the actual amusement parks. Meanwhile, the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser was pitched as an all-inclusive resort, a landlocked cruise. Aside from a brief excursion into the Star Wars-themed section of Hollywood studios, you're not meant.
I was like, have I said Furiosa so many times that I'm hearing it in my head now?
Meant to leave the building. You wouldn't pick the length of your stay. It's always 2 nights, 2 days.
No, I actually started playing the trailer.
And you're provided with a trip itinerary, which blocks out pretty much everything, almost down to the minute. You're better off thinking of it as a summer camp. Space camp, if you like. Or if you're sort of nerdy, you can think of it as LARP, live action roleplay. You aren't just doing Star Wars themed activities, you're supposed to feel like you're in the Star Wars universe. Everything is themed to look like you're on a spaceship, the common areas are populated by character actors, and you're encouraged to dress up and create a character as you're guided through a storyline. It would be Disney's most unique, most ambitious, and most immersive offering yet. And it would also go out of business. Yeah, on May 19th, 2023, Disney announced they would be calling it quits that September. Only 18 months after the hotel's grand opening, it would close forever. And I went to this hotel.
Wait, it's like the, what was the Jesus, didn't we talk about the amusement park? The Jesus theme one where there were no rides? It was in Florida. There were no rides.
So this video, which was initially just meant to be a deep dive of the hotel and a review, has instead become a kind of eulogy and a detailed archive of what the hotel was actually like. And together, we will discover why it went out of business.
Kara, thank you
that
for the
might
6
sound
months.
daunting, but don't worry, I have organized it into an internet-friendly numbered list. So join me on this adventure. By the end, you'll feel like you were there too. And also, I think, feel other emotions. Part 1. Why have they done this? I think immersion has been a prevailing buzzword in theme park marketing for at least a decade now.
I think this time we really raised the level of immersion.
The immersion into the Pacific Northwest is absolutely incredible.
My
Guests will be able to explore
immersion.
even more immersive worlds.
Disney Cruise Line ships have immersive activities.
The first immersive storyland that we built at Disney Hollywood Studios.
You immerse yourself into the culture of where you're visiting.
And really immerse themselves in the story.
Really to immerse the
Immerse
audience in the
yourself.
experience.
And immerse the guests in a
Why
world
does her face look so angelic? What is that filter? I know. I need it.
So immersive.
It's
Is that Megan Fox?
so immersive.
The most immersive. The most immersive.
The most immersive.
The Wizarding World of Harry Potter was pitched as immersive.
Do you
because
guys think
everything
it's
looks like the set
immersive?
of the movie. They have themed food, and you can buy wizard robes and wear them around. Pandora: The World of Avatar was pitched as immersive because everything looks like the animation from the movie. They have themed food, and you can buy Avatar ears and wear them around. Star Wars: Galaxy's Edge was pitched as immersive because it doesn't look like any particular movie. They have themed food, and you can buy Jedi robes, but you're not allowed to wear them inside the theme park. Yeah, that one kind of stumbled across the finish line. Anyway, all of that is what you might call immersive. But
They're like immersive,
I
but
would
not
also
too
call
immersive.
it just a theme park. That's the definition of a theme park, a themed environment with rides. Compare this to something like a Six Flags, where it's like a crumbling gas station with roller coasters out back, and one of the roller coasters has a Superman logo on it. I can never help it. I'm always attacking Six Flags unprovoked. Six Flags I would call an amusement park and not even a theme park if I was in charge of the terminology, because theme parks are themed. I love that about them, but that's not revolutionary. That's just what they've always been. Disney has had these design principles forever. They just used other synonyms for immersion. It was called realism, maybe feeling transported, maybe escapism, maybe even this plaque that Walt Disney installed at the entrance to Disneyland when he built it. He didn't know about the word
Six Flags sucks ass. Okay, whoa. Let's hold on a second with that.
immersion yet, but if he had, it would probably be the only word on there. I mean, Pandora: The World of Avatar isn't more immersive than Disneyland's Adventureland.
Excuse
if I
you.
go to Adventureland, it
Whoa,
looks like I'm
buddy.
at a jungle outpost, I can eat themed food, and I can buy a safari helmet and wear it around. I've never seen anyone do that, but I have seen them for sale, so it's possible. Sure, Pandora has physically larger and grander set pieces, and it emulates a landscape more foreign to us, but that's in part because Pandora was built in 2017 with a budget of $500 million.
Oh
Adventureland was
my
built in
God.
1955, and I'm pretty sure Walt Disney just paid the construction guys in soda pop and grilled cheese sandwiches. But at their core, the two lands are the same in that the immersion is purely aesthetic. There's no one specific narrative to be told. Nobody is really in character. The employees in Pandora may refer to the film Avatar as the documentary, but they're not going to speak fluent Na'vi back to me, no matter how angrily I shouted at them. So the word immersion is fairly new to the scene, but the practice isn't. But with competing parks building more and more detailed environments, we see the word immersion applied to basically everything as a one-word way to communicate that. And with this heavy marketing emphasis on immersion, it's no wonder that companies wanted to take it further.
This is the next phase. This is the next level of immersive storytelling. Everything in the immersive field we've been dreaming of.
And once you've done themed environments, themed food, themed clothing, the only way to take it further is to move all the way into LARP. But an experience of this kind had never been offered by any theme park company before. The last thing you want is for your product to alienate the Thompsons from Iowa who love to spend money on Disney vacations but have never stepped foot inside a board game store.
them.
And while nerds are
I lived in Iowa. I know the Thompsons from Iowa.
pretty aware of what LARP is, most normies have either not heard of it or have
You've
never
watched this
considered it
video
something they might
twice?
enjoy.
Oh
In
my
fact,
God.
to most non-theater kids, the prospect seems kind of mortifying. It would take a savvy marketing team to pitch this to the average consumer. Part 2, the marketing. The marketing was extremely bad. The hotel concept was first accidentally leaked in April 2017. Disney had contracted a third-party survey company
8 hours
called
is insane.
Swagbucks to try to gauge interest for an immersive Star Wars experience. As with every theme park industry survey, the content was immediately posted to multiple fan sites, so the secret was out.
And tonight, only Eyewitness News has learned of what may be one of the biggest talkers yet. Channel 9 anchor Jamie Holmes got a hold of a survey that has been sent out, wanting to know if fans would be interested in an entire Star Wars themed hotel.
The survey wants to know if fans would be interested in a Star Wars boutique hotel where you would spend 2 nights
Answer,
in a completely immersive
yes.
Star Wars experience.
As long as I'm
The survey
immersed.
includes renderings like this, where the resort looks like a spacecraft, and rooms that have an interactive view out the virtual window on the Star Wars galaxy.
The survey specifically teased a multi-day experience with character performers, secret missions, a pool, a fitness area, robot butlers. The survey asked whether guests would be willing to pay $900 to
I actually pulled
$1,000
up
per
the
person
Municat
for such an
video
experience.
and then decided
Initially,
to watch
nobody
some
was
of
sure
this
whether
one.
this was just a distant idea
But
or
I
if
have that
Disney
one
was actually
bookmarked.
serious about it. But just 3 months later, at the 2017 D23 Expo, CEO Bob Chapek got up on stage and clumsily and uncharismatically announced it to the world.
So today, I am thrilled to confirm that we are working on our most experiential concept ever. It combines a luxury resort with an immersion in an authentic Star Wars environment.
Initially, I remember the response being generally positive, but sort of muted. Like, people were curious what this would entail, but with just a couple of pieces of early concept art and vague marketing phrases like, be immersed in your own Star Wars adventure, it was just too early to really even understand what it was. I mean, Disney will literally call a pizza parlor immersive, so that doesn't mean much. These days, a lot of the stuff they announce at D23 doesn't even end up getting built, so I understand why the response was a little subdued. But at the next D23 Expo in 2019, things were more concretely taking shape. It appeared the hotel was actually happening, and we got more of an outline of what it would entail. The audience gets to see some cool concept art of an arrival terminal. We'll put a pin in that. We're told about space windows, interactivity, branching story paths.
It is an opportunity to live your multi-day story as it unfolds and interweaves with the crew, other passengers, and those Star Wars characters.
At this point, the public's interest was piqued, but overall, there just wasn't enough information to know what to make of it. Okay, so what's next? Well, it's kind of weird, but the next info about the hotel they dropped was just showing us that they made this lightsaber.
Light, darkness, a balance.
They made a lot of commotion about this special lightsaber. See, it looks like one of those fancy effects lightsabers, but it actually comes out of the handle like the ones in the movies. And everybody was like, wow, we can buy that.
I just feel
And
like
were
they have
well,
milked every
no,
drop out
you
of
can
Star
look at
Wars.
it exclusively on the Galactic Star Cruiser, which that's a little less exciting, right? If I just wanted to look at a convincing lightsaber, I could already do that by watching the film Star Wars. I want to touch, but I can see why I can't touch it. People found the patent, and it basically works like an extendable tape measure with a spool of LED gamer lights glued onto it. It could never hold up to rough housing from a kid, and I also get the impression that it can't retract in an elegant way. Like maybe they have to take it apart and re-spool it or something. You can see everyone that does handle it acts like it's going to fall apart at any minute. When Josh D'Amaro shows it off at D23, he doesn't swish it around. He won't even gesticulate while he's holding it. He just holds it perfectly upright with both hands and then gingerly passes it off to his assistant, just like in the movies. In my opinion, it was monumentally stupid of them to advertise this ahead of time. I think it's the kind of parlor trick that's more dazzling if you aren't expecting it, and it's such a limited trick, right? Like this thing we see in the ad and at the expo, that's the whole thing the lightsaber does, and now we've seen it. I think this would have gotten better online buzz if they'd saved it as a surprise for opening weekend. But to be honest, they might have showcased this out of desperation. It certainly seems like for several expos they haven't had much to announce. On August 4th, 2021, Star Cruiser releases their first real ad.
For the first time, it's real.
Well, it's immersive.
Reaches of the galaxy. We got recruited by the Resistance, and now we're ready.
Come on, Dad. We gotta go save the ship.
No, we're gonna save the galaxy.
So that was pretty vague, but it at least communicated a few things. You see a family is on a spaceship, they've met a few people in alien makeup, and got to do some kind of resistance mission. It's a decent teaser, I guess. None of the characters in this ad will actually appear in the finished product, and you can tell from the way they shot it that they haven't completed any of the building interiors. But I think it's supposed to be more of a proof of concept. Unfortunately, on the same day they dropped this ad, Disney also dropped the sample pricing for the experience. And here's some foreshadowing for you. The news was not well received. People had already been skeptical about this project, and Disney being Disney, there was already a lot of speculation that it would cost a lot. But it actually cost a lot. And that'll be in our next chapter. But for now, let's just say it was expensive. From this point on, marketing will be fighting an uphill battle to start any positive conversation about the Galactic Star Cruiser, because now all anyone wants to talk about is the price tag. It isn't until November of that year that we get our next substantial info drop. In this promotional video, executive Josh D'Amaro walks over to the Star Cruiser to demo it. For the life of me, I cannot understand why they have this shot of him strolling in from outside. It's so unimmersive. And then they fade to him standing in the lightsaber training pod, and it looks so sad and featureless.
We have been working on this experience to have a whole brand new way for our guests to experience this ancient art of the lightsaber.
During normal operation, this room has ambient lighting, but here they've overlit it and made it look very cheap.
This looks unbelievable.
So the important context is that this was our first real look at what you would do on the Star Cruiser. People now knew what it cost, but not exactly what it was offering. A frankly insane order in which to release information. So for this video, Josh is going to demo the exclusive lightsaber training experience.
Why is Disney acting like a brokey? Well...
All right, so you're right there.
Facing
here.
here.
Face off against the remote.
They just reported a net loss end of March of 10 billion. Wow, this looks so cool.
Okay, so it looks bad. We can all see that it looks bad. He's moving so slowly, and I'm so secondhand embarrassed about how rigidly he's moving. Like, why is he moving his torso and not his arms? Why is it like that? Again, if they're marketing...
Because the lightsaber will fall apart as it's made out of Jell-O.
An immersive experience, why are they doing such unimmersive showcases? Why not have kids do the lightsaber experience and have everybody in costume and shoot and edit it to look a little more dynamic? Why do they think we want to see an executive trying it? I'm giving that ad a thumbs down. But let's move on to the next big promo video, released just a couple weeks later. Disney has pulled out all the stops for this one. They've got their most charismatic Imagineer giving a tour of the ship. They've got an actor from one of their ABC sitcoms here to try it out.
Hello there. I'm super excited to see what you and your team created. We cannot wait to have you aboard because Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is a first of its kind vacation experience where you get to spend 2 days and 2 nights living out your very own Star Wars story. Oh, I'm just too excited. We gotta go inside.
This is my favorite.
The kid from the Goldbergs.
The ship looks empty and lifeless, like when you're in a mall past closing time. The delivery is stilted. The editing is supremely awkward. They constantly sound like they're being cut off.
It's like I'm walking straight into a Star Wars movie. Except it's not a movie, right? You get to be in the middle of it all and in the middle of the action.
And then there's activities you can do on here.
Yeah, there are activities on board the ship.
Actor Sean Giambroni looks briefly at the bridge, sends the ship into light speed.
Punch it!
He is really dialing up the
and then
acting.
he wanders away from his tour into this half-empty lounge where a Twi'lek singer sings at him.
What's going on? I just popped through that door and I have no idea.
Oh.
Look above and see the world slowly emerge before your eyes.
And once we're shown this character,
It's
the
a
ad just kind of
musical?
becomes a short music video. Like, this is not presented from the perspective of the sitcom actor as he marvels at this new world. The camera takes us physically away from him to a perfectly centered shot of the alien singer. He stumbles back out into the hallway. Was that all a dream?
Oh
what does
my
it mean?
God.
And the ad ends there. I can't even imagine what they were thinking with this one. Okay, first, let me do a compliment sandwich. I theoretically like this as theme park marketing material. Instead of just giving us practical information, they decided to do a little skit,
They decided
which is always
to
better.
sing.
And I, for one, love Sean Giambroni's G. Willikers performance here. It's like if they got Mickey Rooney to do the ad. To me, someone who's watched a lot of vintage theme park promotional materials, this all feels charmingly dorky and sort of retro. But ask yourself.
Yeah, if there's one thing that the average American is drawn in by, it's musical theater.
Is dorky and retro really what you're going for when you're promoting an infamously expensive, ostensibly groundbreaking experience? A project that already has a lot of naysayers? I would think you'd want to make it look as cool as possible. Really put your best foot forward. Not to mention, this video conveys next to nothing about what you actually do on the Star Cruiser. The Disney marketing department seems to think saying punch it is enough of a selling point for an attraction, and I think they're mistaken about that. The building doesn't even come across well because all the sets are overlit and underpopulated. They look cheap. Furthermore, why would you choose to do an ad that's centered around the fact that there's a singer? I think this character is a cool bit of world building, and a live singer does make a restaurant feel more expensive, but surely they didn't think that this would be the main selling point of a Star Wars roleplay experience. The performance itself is awkward, like it's not even a performance venue. She's just standing in the middle of a small lounge between tables,
Don't make me
singing loudly
sing.
to like maybe 10 people.
Don't make me sing.
And she's not even doing a lounge singer song, which might have helped the vibe. She's just doing like a human pop song. It keeps cutting to the other patrons of the bar, and they're just kind of bobbing their heads in polite disinterest. If you're doing a skit anyway, why have the weird framing narrative where
Honestly, that feels real AF. Like, people watching someone just awkwardly stand in the middle of the room, belting out a song, just kind of nodding along like, okay.
Brony walks into a fake hotel to speak with an Imagineer. Why not just shoot a little skit where he's already living in the story of the hotel? They're trying to hook us on the idea that this will be an out-of-this-world adventure, but Sean's whole adventure was that he briefly saw a woman singing and she looked unusual. Anyway, this ad was poorly received and widely mocked. Allegedly, hotel dates which had previously been fully booked suddenly became available in the week following the ad. That would suggest that some people found the ad so discouraging that they went out of their way to cancel existing reservations. And I think these reports must have been true because within the week, Disney deleted this ad from all platforms. Yikes. If you're wondering how Disney tried to follow that, the answer is that they didn't. That ad went over so badly that I guess they just completely gave up on shooting new promotional material for the Star Cruiser. New Twitter promos would pop up, but they would just be stills of concept art or recuts of that first teaser ad supplemented with a little bit of new footage. To emphasize the choose your own adventure aspect of the experience, they would add in clips of each story path. So they had a Jedi ad, a smuggler ad, and they had an ad about how you can sell Chewbacca out to the First Order and get him thrown in jail,
ad.
which was so poorly received that Disney would later delete it from all platforms. It's weird that that happened twice. The thing about these ads is, anyone with a functioning brain sees this footage and is like, that feels improbable. Logistically, I doubt I'll be doing a solo run through a whole satisfying, movie-accurate adventure. But then, if my visit will look nothing like these ads, what will it look like? A question Disney seemed unable or unwilling to answer. Instead, they just kept showcasing the same limited roster of activities they'd already told us about.
So
like
funny.
Good Morning America did a promotional segment, and surprise, it's pushing buttons on the bridge, it's the lightsaber game again, a chance to meet Chewbacca, which you can already do in Disneyland, and for some reason they let Bob Chapek wriggle out of his den and fumble his way through an interview. Once again, no real insight into the choose your own adventure aspect, despite it being the biggest selling point of the hotel. So I've pretty much covered all the ads in intended for the general public, but since I'm a hardcore theme park fan, I did personally try to delve a little deeper. So through all this, I was watching all of Disney's social media channels, and they posted a few panels with their Imagineers. Maybe it's unfair to lump these in with the ads since they're only intended for nerds, but they did give me a little more info about what you do in the gameplay.
There might be someone that you help stow away. There might be someone that you help get thrown in a brig, right? Like
Or break out.
Or break out of the brig, right? There could be a galactic superstar who entertains you on the first night, but then also tasks you with helping her smuggle something.
Nice. Finally, we get a concrete example. I love that.
Or you might help someone get their luggage on board without somebody noticing. You never know.
Okay, I'm definitely getting the idea that we're going to smuggle luggage at some point.
I think about the fact that you might meet one of our characters. You might meet one of them on the bridge. You might meet them sort of on a screen first. Then you help them board. Then you smuggle their luggage.
Okay, a lot of smuggling luggage, perhaps.
Then they appear on the ship.
Physically, they walk into the room
while you're smuggling their luggage on board.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Then you see them later. They send you a message saying, thanks for your help with the luggage.
As the opening date approached, Disney, of course.
God, my favorite voice is the marketing voice when you are making something that is really not fun sound like the most fun thing ever. It is amazing. Then what we'll do is smuggle luggage, and then we'll smuggle some more luggage, and it's like maybe then you'll smuggle even more luggage. It's, you know what I'm talking about. It's that corporate marketing voice where someone is trying so hard to sell something that is just impossible to sell because it's not good.
First pivoted to influencer marketing. And in my opinion, they managed to fumble this too. From what I saw, most of the people they invited were TikTokers who just stood in the atrium and did viral dances. Why would seeing the grown-up dancing girl from High School Musical dancing in the atrium make me want to book this trip unless I also planned on dancing in the atrium, which statistically I don't. I feel like even if that did successfully pique the interest of their audience, a lot of these people's fans are late high school and early college students who don't have the financial flexibility to book the Star Cruiser even if they want to. Besides, if all you're looking
it baffles me. It baffles me how many people who, it's the whole you have one job marketing, you have one job, and they constantly fall back on doing things that they think have mass appeal. It's like, okay, what's something that everyone loves? TikTok. Everyone loves TikTok. What's something that kids love? TikTok dances. But the reality is that you can't just, it's not like a one size fits all type of thing with marketing. And I feel like marketing is always fucking stuff up. And the amount of money that is spent on ventures like this and how important marketing is. The marketing is the most important thing, truly. And just doing a one size fits all type of thing, like, oh, people love TikTok, so let's incorporate TikTok into this, doesn't make any fucking sense.
For as an attractive backdrop for photos and dances, you could just go trample around in the Super Bloom or book any resort with an infinity pool. I think a more realistic demographic would have been to focus on Comic-Con
for shit like this.
Older nerds who have grown-up jobs and are already familiar with role-playing. So I think they would have been better off mixing in big fish from the smaller ponds of LARP, cosplay, probably D&D podcasts. I know these are marginally more obscure hobbies, but a lot of money is spent on them every year. And here's another general issue I've always had with Disney influencer marketing: naming conventions. In the olden days, Disney would call stuff by fairly natural, simple names. Tomorrowland, Space Mountain, the Alice in Wonderland ride is called Alice in Wonderland. They don't do that anymore. I think it's for copyright reasons or for search engine optimization, but it's so awkward. Now Disney products are called things like The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind.
I actually am really curious. I don't know the answer to this, but if you look at the age groups of who most fervently loves Star Wars, does it tend to be older people because of when Star Wars came out? And obviously they have kept Star Wars going and they have tried to appeal to younger generations. But to me, it seems like older millennials and Gen X. And so what I've seen so far with the way that they have marketed this hotel, that is not for those people. Marketing generally seems obsessed with capturing the teenage young adult demographic. The problem is for stuff like this, you need to convince parents. Yeah, you need to convince parents because they're probably the ones who are actually bigger Star Wars fans.
Star Wars.
It's like,
Galaxy's
yes,
Edge.
Disney
So you end up with all
adults.
these products which, colloquially, nobody calls by their actual registered names. People say Star Wars Land.
Partly
they say
Dave
the
thinking
Star
it's
Wars
Tier 1.
Hotel. People say, I want to ride the Cars ride. They don't say, I want to ride Radiator Springs Racers. And the big problem here is, if you make contracts with influencers and you require them to call your products by the full legal names, they're going to sound like you're paying them. Imagine if I told you, I went to Disney World and saw Star Wars Land. It was pretty fun. I saw the Star Wars bar and I went on the Millennium Falcon ride. Now imagine if I told you, this summer I got to experience Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I loved seeing Oga's Cantina and blasting off on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Which one do you believe more? And yet Disney's marketing team is absolutely allergic to just letting people call things by their casual nicknames. And I think it makes all media they produce, host, and sponsor sound extremely insincere. This problem is especially present in this one marketing product I found, the Plan Disney podcast. I highly recommend giving this podcast a watch sometime, by which I mean it is fascinatingly bad. Basically, on this podcast, Disney brings in a rotating cast of real fans and social media personalities to give trip reports and offer advice to fellow guests. The podcast isn't secretive about being produced by Disney. It's shot inside the theme parks. They disclose that their panelists are compensated. So with that context, I don't think it's weird that the panelists would only have good things to say about Disney World. But what I do think is weird is the way they talk.
Do you have anything that's coming up that's exciting you about Disney destinations?
Okay, I am very excited. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And my friend and fellow panelist was recently on the maiden voyage of Galactic Star Cruiser over at Walt Disney
It's
World
the marketing
Resort.
voice.
I was just talking to her. She said that it's like being the main character in your own Star Wars story.
All of the terminology is so rigidly corporate.
Yeah, man. Look, people aren't fucking stupid, okay? I watched this video the other day. It's really well done. Cool to see a female content creator do this type. I really love Jenny. She's great. This video is already amazing. That is that phony ass marketing voice that I was talking about, where people can hear through that. Who is going to watch that and be like, wow, sounds super genuine, sounds authentic, sounds like this person actually had a genuinely great time, and that's why they're sharing their experience here. It certainly isn't #ad, #here's the script. Like, oh my God, these are the amazing things that you can do here. People hear that voice and you all you think is, this is an ad, this is an ad. Even when they try to dress it up and make it seem like it's not an ad. They're like, no, look at this totally authentic panel that we're having where we're just talking to some regular people about why they love Star Wars.
Half the time the hosts are literally reading off a prompter, and the rest of the time you can tell they've been briefed on the questions and prepared their answers ahead of time.
Guys, we cannot forget the ultimate Star Wars fan, right? I mean, what would be more intense than a 2-day stay at the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser?
Yeah,
we're talking about an
my
immersive experience.
And like, why? Disney has so many fans that will uncritically celebrate their products without getting paid, so why not just let them use their own words? Why make your own fake podcast in the first place? Nobody's watching this except me, and I'm only watching it as performance art.
After you check in, you jump into a launch pod.
Okay.
And in my
Oh
opinion, this
my
is when the
God.
adventure really begins.
It never used to be like this. Why does corporate mandate that they talk about the products this way? Why is all this marketing so bad? Are they really so out of touch? Could they be so naive? In all fairness, I don't envy the marketing team for Star Cruiser. This experience is clearly intended to be more than the sum of its parts, a collection of fairly pedestrian activities dressed up with clever showmanship and put together in a high enough quantity that the overall experience will dazzle you. So how do you market
The
something
fake
like that?
podcast is
Showing any one
hilarious.
activity in isolation will look bad because it's not exciting enough on its own, but showing all the activities will ruin the product because it relies heavily on surprises. What's worse, this level of immersive activity has only been attempted by theme parks a handful of times before and has no real basis for comparison. They could compare it to LARP, but we've already covered how many normal people don't fully understand what that is. I'm sure everybody watching this video does, you freaks, but many people don't. I think Disney might have been better off comparing it.
The other thing, too, that you guys got to keep in mind is that for the last decade, the majority of Disney's cash flow comes from their theme park division. Even though for a long time they had successful films, they monetized. Sorry, I cannot speak. They monetized primarily through their theme parks. And so because they've been getting hit so hard with things like their streaming division, and you see them like constantly reporting net losses every quarter, all these mergers that they've taken on. Last year was the lowest that the Disney stock had been in 9 years. They rely so heavily on their theme park division to keep the cash flowing. And that is why this is such a big deal.
To living in a video game, but maybe they knew that would have been overselling it. I can't really think of any video game that plays the way Star Cruiser does. We'll talk about that later. It might have been better to compare it to a murder mystery dinner, but those don't usually make you think of luxury and never before seen immersion. So instead, Disney compared it to nothing. They relied on their brand identity and loyal customer base to essentially buy a mystery box. They showed almost nothing of what the experience would entail. They defaulted to bloated marketing language like live your Star Wars story, step into the world of Star Wars, immerse yourself in a one-of-a-kind adventure. And, as I already foreshadowed, there was one more significant complication. Part 3, the cost. So let's break this down. For our 2-person cabin, the total came to $6,066.88. So that's $3,033.44 per person. The official website.
Pay up, nerds! Holy shit! Pay up, nerds. Okay. I ain't no marketing expert, but when you have a venture like this that is astronomically expensive, it's 2 days, and it was over $3,300 per person. That is not something, I don't give a shit how big of a Star Wars fan you are, that is going to be applicable to most people. That is an exorbitant cost. And so that has to also factor into how you market this experience. And the thing is that they shouldn't have had it this expensive in the first place. Truly, that's insane. That is insane. But if they were just totally stuck on this price, like, nope, that's what it has to be in order for us to be able to, like, whatever. I don't know how to break the numbers down. Then that has to be what drives how you market this hotel. This is literally what the lawyer in Jurassic Park was proposing. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, how fictional films really aren't so fictional. How fiction really is just nonfiction. In regards to the age of Star Wars fans, the average birth year was 1984. The median was 1985. Half the sample was born between 1976 and 1993. Yeah, and so again, it's another weird thing where, oh, you're going to market this to families by doing TikTok stuff, by like just the language and you're using and the way that you're shooting these ads. Like, truly, to me, if I'm thinking, okay, $3,300 per person, the official website quoted $4,800. The section or the type of people who could afford this would be like millennials who don't have a family. It's like, oh, you're a couple or an individual who does pretty well, you know, at a certain income level. And that's who this would be feasibly, financially feasible for. Yeah, elder millennials with money.
$4,800 for a two-person cabin, so that's what a lot of people repeat when they're discussing pricing. But really, that's just the lowest possible price, so it's not really a reliable figure. Unlike other hotels, the room was not a flat rate, so the price went up for each person added to the booking.
Three-person family
but it went
would be
up by smaller
$10K.
increments for each one. I'm just making up these numbers, but for instance, it's possible that when I went, if I had put 4 people in my cabin, it would have cost something like $7,500.
Oh my God, that is insane. That is insane. And the other thing is, why do this over Disneyland? Why do this over Disneyland where you get Star Wars experience there? My 32-year-old sister and brother-in-law go to Disney often but don't have kids. Disney is already expensive, okay? And Disney is often for families like, this is our vacation. This is, this is a very expensive thing. But this is our, we save up for it. This is the family vacation. So why pick this over that?
But because that's now being split 4 ways, the cost per person will go
Because you
down.
get to play
I'm sorry
the
if this sounds
adventure.
confusing. It is confusing.
It's
this was made more
immersive.
complicated by the lack of transparency on price points. To get a quote, you already had to know your number of travelers and all their names. You had to have a weekend in mind, and then you would call them on the phone. There was usually a long queue before you talked to someone, and then, assuming your ideal week happened to be available, the agent would tell you a price. I didn't have the freedom of clicking around on a digital calendar looking for the cheapest day. I didn't play with number of guests to see how much
Because
that would raise or lower the
luggage
cost. They made it so you had to
Oh,
move
how
pretty
could I
far into the
forget?
booking process before you could get a quote. So because of this, I can't really guess an average or median price point for any given trip. When Disney said it was possible to book a two-person room for $4,800, that might have just meant that there was a single day each year that it cost that little. The cabin might have averaged a $5,500
That is
price tag
disgusting.
or an $8,000 price tag. If you were serious about going, you just had to cold call them and find out. So all this to say, since I paid for my own trip and I have my invoice and I know exactly what I paid, I'm going to be running my cost analysis based on my own experience. So, $6,066.88 for 2 people. This didn't include our flights to Florida, obviously, and it also didn't include transportation from the airport. I just mentioned that because Disney World used to offer free airport shuttles to hotel guests, and they decided to take that away in 2021 out of stinginess, I guess, if we're being honest. So the prices I'm discussing only covered me from the moment I arrived at the Star Cruiser.
Fuck
now,
that.
let's think value for your time. How many hours of entertainment are you getting
we
for
could
that
have
price?
coupon day.
According to the sample itinerary on the website, you check in at 1 p.m. on day 1 and check out at 10 a.m. on day 3, but obviously I'm not going to include the hours I spent sleeping and showering in the value of the experience. You can see on the schedule that there's a certain time each night when you're essentially dismissed to go to bed, at which point exciting things will pause. I'm not going to be super pedantic and cut out things like meal times, because after all, some of those included entertainment. I'm also not going to bother cutting out the 10-minute gaps in the sample itinerary when they have you walking from place to place. Heck, I'll even be generous and include breakfast and the shuttle back to Earth on checkout day as entertainment hours. So as you can
That's
see,
a lot
day
of
1
money
gives
to
us
smuggle
7 hours
luggage.
and 45 minutes of entertainment time. Day 2 is going to be a 16-hour day. That sounds exhausting. And day 3 offers just 1 hour and 30 minutes. That gives us a grand total of 25 hours and 15 minutes of entertainment time. Once again, that per person cost was $3,033.44 divided by 25.25 hours equals $120.14 per person per hour of entertainment, or about $2 per person per minute. Better not sleep in, kids. I should also clarify that I paid for the rock bottom,
Math.
no frills package. There were multiple available add-ons, which I did not buy. Actually, I might have bought some of them, but they were not mentioned to me when I booked, so I didn't know they existed until it was too late. At the time I was booking our spot, the hotel had not yet opened to the public, so a lot of information was still being gate-kept, and it was just kind of expected that you would know what to ask for, but obviously I didn't. To be honest, that entire process was extremely confusing and frustrating and stressful. So we booked the standard room,
Yeah,
which was
that
the
sounds like
cheapest
a
and the
real
smallest,
relaxing
but there were actually
vacation.
options for 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom suites. The website didn't even list sample prices for
Don't
these,
sleep
but
in,
one
'cause
fan
it
blog took
costs
one for
money.
the team and called about booking the largest suite on a random day in September, and they were quoted a price of over $12,000. There were also less extravagant add-ons. For $30 per person, I could have upgraded our dinner
You
seating
almost
to the
went to this,
captain's table
Jaina.
experience, and again, I didn't know that existed when I booked, so I didn't get to book it, and I sure wish I had. We'll get to that. The only add-on I did pay for was the Memory Maker. This was the one thing they did recommend to me. Basically, when I was booking, they said there would be a bunch of roaming photographers on the ship, taking both candid and posed photos of guests. The Memory Maker bundle was $169, and it would allow unlimited free downloads of those photos. I correctly predicted that I would be recording video the whole time and fail to get any photos of myself, so I bought it. However, after I bought it, and just a few weeks before my trip, they rolled out another different add-on where you could buy a private photo shoot for 30 minutes for $399. And from what I can tell, once Disney rolled out this more expensive private photo session, they just reassigned all the photographers who would have been roaming the ship to do the private shoots instead because it made more money. So what I'm saying is that I paid the $169 for Memory Maker, and we didn't see any photographers the entire trip except for the ones actively engaged in private photo shoots. So I just kind of lit that money on fire, and I have pretty much no photos of my trip, but whatever.
Holy
This didn't sit
shit.
right with me, and I did like a sanity check on some fan groups and found out that the same thing had happened to a bunch of people where they just saw no photographers the whole time. So I actually called and emailed a couple different departments at Disney asking for a refund and wasn't able to get one. They just said no. But
Scammy.
then I complained on my
Scammy.
Twitter account, which has a lot of followers, and suddenly they personally called me and gave me my refund. They didn't even ask for my phone number. Like, someone at Disney did the legwork to go into the database, look up my booking info, and then find my phone number and call me within like a day of the tweet going out. And the person who called me was really nice, and I'm thankful that he cared to resolve it. But I just always feel very
Funny how
cynical
that
when I try to
works,
resolve
yeah.
issues through the appropriate channels available to all customers, and nobody will help me until they find out I'm an influencer. I spoke with
Mhm.
several other guests who got Memory Maker and had the exact same problems as me, and they never got refunds. Another hidden cost was that Disney recommended...
Bro, I'm telling y'all, I've said this to you before, okay? Here's some advice. If you are dealing with customer service shit where they're not giving you the time of day because you're not an influencer, pick some random Twitter account that's not a faceless, nameless one that has hella followers and just be like, this is me. You know, Kira on Twitter, this is me. I'm going to tweet this out. Truly. How would they know? I brought my wife and family to Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Adventure Immersion Experience. It cost me $11,000, and now I'm getting divorced. Oh yeah, it's gonna cost you even more now. Deanie, thank you for the 18 months.
Recommended Star Cruiser guests arrive one day before
Just
their
say you're
booking
Caroline
date.
Kwan,
Real cruises,
yeah.
the ones that
We
are
are
on
Caroline
boats,
Kwan.
also recommend this because in both cases, time is of the essence, and you don't want your whole trip ruined because of a flight delay. Remember, $2 per person per minute, so we're not showing up late. But of course, this additional night in Florida is just another bonus expense for out-of-town guests. One thing that was included in the Star Cruiser price was admission to the theme park for up to 7 hours, and there were several suggested add-ons for that block of time, but those cost extra. You could book lightsaber building for $220, droid building for
Oh my
$100,
God.
or reserve a table at Oga's Cantina, food and drinks not included. For all of the above optional add-ons I've listed, there was not enough availability for every guest at the hotel to get them, even if everybody was interested in booking every single one. They were all pretty limited in quantity, and first come, first serve, and you had to know to book them. I guess some people got emails about these things, but
You had
because
to
of a
pay to
glitch,
book
like
a
half the people who
reservation at a
booked just
restaurant.
didn't get them. I was one of those. And even if everyone had known, they would have had to fight over these things, so it was kind of baked into the model that although all trips were expensive, the bulk of the trips would inherently be inferior in some way. Which brings me to my next point.
That's how
Part
they get
4,
you.
Spirit Airlines in space. In the United States, we have an airline called Spirit Airlines. Everybody makes fun of it, and it's just kind of universally acknowledged that this is the cheap,
shit.
awful airline that you only fly on if you have no
Oh my
other
God.
choice. Basically, how Spirit's business model works is their base ticket cost is insanely low. It's usually about half the price
Love
of
the
the other
costume
airlines,
change.
but that half-price ticket is going to be the worst flight of your life in the tiniest chair you've ever sat in, bringing nothing with you but the clothes on your back. This is because Spirit makes every possible amenity cost extra. Diet Coke costs extra. The little
Do you want
bags
to
of
breathe
pretzels
air?
Cost extra. Legroom costs extra. Bags cost extra. Even carry-on bags, even a purse. I actually don't think flying Spirit is a bad way to fly. If you pay for the Diet Coke and the extra legroom and the carry-on luggage, it just becomes a normal flight, just like you'd experience on any other airline. And with all that stuff added on, you're not ultimately paying more than another airline. You're usually paying around the same amount. So in a practical sense, Spirit is exactly the same as every other airline. They just present the prices
Also, an insane percentage of Spirit Airlines flights do not take off on time. It's Spirit Airlines and Frontier Airlines that are year after year rated the worst airlines, not just because, oh, you have to pay for all this extra shit, because that's fine. People book tickets on those airlines knowing that you're just getting a seat. All right. Anything else, you got to pay extra. But it's the fact that they frequently, I mean, I can't remember the percentage. I want to say it's like 60%, something horrible like that. They don't take off on time. They don't land on time. There's always some sort of problem.
This is in a different way up front. So why does everybody hate Spirit? Because of the psychology of it. Because you see that initial price, and then for each amenity you're forced to add along the way to get back to that baseline service you're used to, each thing the airline demands payment for, you feel like you're being scammed. It makes the airline look duplicitous.
That man is
and
too
stingy.
happy.
You're like, ugh,
He's
they
too
really
happy
want
looking.
money for a tiny bag of pretzels? Really, guys? And it's like, well, on United Airlines, the pretzels aren't really free either. They're just factored into the total cost. But you don't know that when you're paying for the ticket. So when you get the pretzels, it feels like a perk. Framing is everything. If you pay extra for every aspect of an experience across many steps of booking, you feel taken advantage of every time it happens. It makes your relationship with the company feel antagonistic, as if they're trying to get away with doing as little for you as possible. And on the other hand, if you opt out of those amenities, if you don't add them on, you get a lesser experience. You'll have saved money, but you'll also be sitting on the same plane with all the people who did opt into the slightly better experience, and you'll be watching them get this better service. And that doesn't feel good either. That makes you feel poor. And that is why
that woman had died, by the way. That woman in that commercial right there, she was dead because she didn't pay for the air.
Everyone thinks Spirit Airlines is the scammy, trashy airline, and they feel negatively about flying on it. So that's already pretty bad. But now, let's run a thought experiment where Spirit Airlines charges extra for everything, but that base ticket is no longer half price. In fact, it doesn't even cost the same as all the other airlines. It actually costs more than everyone else is charging, and yet all those amenities still cost extra. Extra square footage, extra activities, extra character interactions, your trip photos. Hey guys, we know you'll probably want all of these things, but each of them is going to cost you just a little bit extra. You don't have to buy any of them, but just be aware that if you don't, there is a non-zero chance that your already very expensive vacation is going to be just a little bit worse than it could have been. In my opinion, if the starting price is already so expensive that all anyone who brings up your product talks about is how expensive it is, it should then be all-inclusive. Add-ons should not exist. The already high price should cover everything. And there especially shouldn't be add-ons that can only accommodate a small fraction of the guests. If you're selling something as a once-in-a-lifetime experience, if an amenity cannot be provided for all guests, it should not be sold to any of them. So what I'm saying is the price...
I agree, and I feel like obviously this is capitalism, but the thinking is that, okay, these people are spending this much money anyway. They're going to be willing to spend $100, $200 more so they don't feel like they got a lesser experience because they're already spending so much money. I feel as if that's what the thinking is there. They're already spending $5,000. What's $200 more? And we'll make it seem like, oh, you spend that extra $200, then you get the best experience possible. And you're already here. You're already spending all this money. So you might as well get the best experience possible and spend the extra couple $100 on that. In for a penny, in for a pound.
And it is. But what matters is that generates a customer experience, which is also bad. Part 5, the ship. You'll be seeing glimpses of it in all my footage anyway, but I'm sure you're curious, so first let me walk you through all of the physical environments in this experience. All the spaces accessible to guests. First stop, the arrival terminal. Driving up was kind of interesting. We actually went to the Hollywood Studios park and then traveled backstage.
Doesn't even feel like we're supposed to be here.
That looks like the sign. I think that's the sign.
No, that's definitely it.
Yeah, they're banking on repeat customers. They come to find out they could have had a better experience. They just have to come back.
What I think are cast parking lots.
Yeah.
Star Cruiser.
crazy. So because it was a restricted area, they had a security gate, and they took our IDs to make sure we actually had a reservation before we could even drive up to the hotel. When we got to the terminal, it was pretty chaotic. The Star Cruiser set an arrival window of 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., but I've already shown you the cost per minute breakdown. Obviously, everybody is trying to get there and get inside as early as they can. In the story of the hotel, you must take a pod from the terminal up into space, where the Star Cruiser Halcyon is waiting in orbit. So in the real world, you must take a themed elevator to the lobby of the hotel, which is on the 2nd floor. And I think that is fun. I think it's very cute. But that also means that they can only let like 10 guests into the hotel at a time, and the line has to stop for a minute in between. So with everybody arriving all at once, you can expect like a 40-minute wait before you can actually get inside. For reasons I genuinely cannot understand, Disney decided not to build any kind of indoor lobby at street level. It's just a long wait in this sad outdoor queue area, and then a slightly shorter wait in this sad concrete hallway. And again, in the story, you're not on the ship yet, so I didn't expect anything super fancy here. But like in story, this space is meant to emulate an airport terminal, so why does it look sadder than that? Surely they could have built an enclosed, air-conditioned lobby with some chairs, and then maybe guests could take a number instead of standing in line, just so everybody isn't waiting in a packed outdoor queue in the Florida heat in their Star Wars cosplays, which are also warm. And I do mean packed because there wasn't very much physical room for people to line up, which added to the chaotic vibe. I think Disney must have assumed during construction that not everybody would arrive at once, but why would they assume that? They knew how much money they were charging. I mean, they even advised everyone to get there an entire day early so they could arrive on time. The cast members brought around chilled bottles of the Space Dasani they sell in Galaxy's Edge to compensate for the heat, which was very nice. And obviously a 40-minute wait isn't the end of the world, but in every aspect of the hotel, I am keeping the price in mind. Again, this was billed as a luxury hotel, and in my opinion, this isn't a luxury hotel way to welcome guests. Plus, our trip was in March, and we were sweating in the shade. Imagine going in August. I mean, you don't have to now because they're out of business, but whatever. Right before you get on your pod into space, you get a little out of character intro video. I think this video could have incorporated a little more guidance on the gameplay of the experience, but its primary function was to play a demo of the in-character emergency alarm.
As your adventure progresses, there will be special, highly dramatic moments that will ask for everyone's attention. They will be signaled with a ship-wide display that looks like this.
Then for comparison, they play the out-of-character alarm and tell you the protocol for a real emergency. For example, if you're in your hotel room when a fire breaks out, the hotel doesn't have fire escapes, so you're meant to crouch in this little shame closet and press a panic button, then wait in the dark for help to arrive. Comforting.
What?
I actually thought this was such a good idea. The intro video, not the shame closet. I have criticized certain other immersive experiences in the past.
What? That seems insane. And also, how a panic closet? There's no run it back. Here.
Doesn't have fire escapes, so you're meant to crouch in this little
They
shame
don't have fire escapes, so you have to crouch in this
closet and press a
shame
panic button,
closet.
then wait in the dark for help to arrive. Comforting. I actually thought this was such a good idea. The
Florida.
intro video, not the shame closet. I have criticized certain other immersive experiences in the past for failing to distinguish between real and fake emergencies. But also, fake emergencies are fun, as long as you know that they're fake. So the idea
no
of doing
fire
this
escape
video
'cause it's a
gets
spaceship,
chef's
duh.
kiss from me. And it didn't feel like a spoiler. If anything, it made me more excited for the story because immediately you start wondering when the alarm is going to go off. Upon arrival, everyone's luggage has to go through a security check, and other people also have to go through a security check. These happen separately because the bellhops take your luggage away as soon as you arrive. So they would confiscate pocket knives, scissors, and anything that looked like a gun, even if it was a prop.
And your journey begins now.
I can't break my immersion when I'm burning to death. I think it's all part of the experience, you guys.
Welcome aboard.
Wow. Once we made it up to the ship, individual cast members were waiting to walk each guest to their rooms. They also gave like a little mini tour as they walked with little nuggets
Is it
of
bad
ship
I still
lore.
want to go to this? Look, we're 40 minutes in. Just wait.
Oh, so he only needs a little tiny bit.
He's not with us anymore, unfortunately.
And then they pointed out where everything was in the room. And our luggage was already waiting for us in our room by the time we got inside, which I loved. That whole part of the experience did feel very deluxe to me, so we were off to a positive start. We were also presented with our M bands, which in the rest of Disney World Resort are called magic bands, but these ones are special because they look different. The band has an RFID chip in it, so you can use it as a room key, you can attach a credit card to it and use it to make purchases, and it also stores fast passes for rides. This is not new technology for Disney. They've been doing it at all their hotels for a while now, but I do like it. I think it's handy. So now the trip has officially begun, and it's time to take a look around. The atrium, this is where we entered. It's a beautiful space.
Okay, it
I
looks
like
pretty.
it a lot.
It looks
It has a
good.
balcony, which is inaccessible to
Yeah.
guests. Up there is where a lot of the major story elements are going to play out, so it's actors only. There are all these cushiony couches
Okay.
with end tables to set drinks on, and down at leg level they also have outlets and USB ports to charge your devices while you're sitting there. I will say everybody was tripping over these low tables the entire weekend. They are at shin height for maximum bruising. There's this little model of the Halcyon, the ship we're meant to be on, so it's a little visual aid. At various points throughout the day they also leave out pre-packaged snacks in the atrium, and they have taps in the corner for chilled and sparkling water. There are two tiny windows way up high on one end through which you can kind of see neighboring planets, or when the ship jumps to light speed you can see the stripes. To be honest, I don't think it's the best view. I kind of envisioned the common areas of the ship having a lot more ground level windows to space. I probably envisioned that because that's what all of the concept art showed before the hotel was constructed. Also, I got to eat at the space station themed restaurant in Epcot,
Too
which opened like a
expensive.
year before the
That's-
Star
you had to pay for an
Cruiser,
upgrade
and has
for
a ton
that.
of really large space windows, and I thought that left a much more breathtaking impression. Oh, I should also mention that when the ship jumps to light speed, I thought it would be cool if the atrium or the bridge was on some kind of hydraulic pad to give a little bit of movement when you make the jump. You know, nothing hard enough to make people stumble, but just like a little kick. And since that sounded pretty ambitious, I thought they would just put subwoofers under the floor and it would like vibrate or something. And they actually didn't do that either. When the
Too
ship jumps to light speed,
expensive.
it plays the sound effect and you can see the hyperspace lines through those small distant windows, but it's not a horribly convincing effect. One feature I liked in the atrium are these big column things with projections inside. The projections are sort of rotating advertisements for
paying
things you can
$6K
do on
for
the ship,
Leo's
like an
ticket on the
image of Gaia to
Titanic.
promote her concert. Sometimes it's the Halcyon logo. And then at one point in the storyline, the First Order puts their logo up there because they've taken over. I've heard a lot of discourse about whether or not the ship looks like Star Wars, mostly people saying that it does not. Obviously, that's because everybody thinks of the Star Wars aesthetic as being dingy, lived in. Everything looks like it's from the future, but also at a yard sale. On the other hand, the prequel films were dominated by green screens with smooth 2000 CGI and had some strikingly sterile and plastic environments. The sequel trilogy mostly went back to the nostalgic, dingy sci-fi aesthetic, but then we also had films like Solo showing space opulence, and across all films, the villains' big star destroyers look pretty slick and generically futuristic. So given the breadth of aesthetics across the years of movies, I wouldn't necessarily call this environment un-Star Wars. However, I do think that
Oh my
in
God,
even
King.
approaching the concept for this hotel, Imagineers ran into a problem. If you're charging luxury prices and offering luxury service, you want to build a luxurious environment. But in Star Wars, our heroes are primarily poor people. In fact, the rich people are usually the bad guys. One choice I found interesting is that in story, the Halcyon is meant to be an extremely old luxury cruiser with a long legacy. So that's how they explain the High Republic stylings of it. This is kind of like
that's
the
an
Titanic of the
interesting
Star Wars
point.
universe if it hadn't sunk. I just mean it's an old ship. I don't
And
know.
the fact that like Disney has just milked every drop and then some more out of this franchise and doing such an extravagantly expensive venture like this immersive hotel, and you remember like the actual story of Star Wars.
Wow. And I speculate that that was not only done to justify
like a
the
milk
aesthetic, but to
vampire.
also leave the ship open for reworked storylines. Imagine an alternate timeline where this was a smashing success and
Adam likes
tons
music.
of people
Thank
went
you
to
for the
it,
2
and
months.
after several years, everybody who wanted to do it had already seen it. Since canonically the ship has existed for like the entire Star Wars timeline, they could just do a story overhaul every couple years, set it anywhere they wanted to, and not have to make any physical alterations to the building. So they could set it during the original trilogy, they could have new original characters. Luke is running around, and then at the end he fights Darth Vader, or like Jabba the Hutt. Personally, I would prefer Jabba, and then they could wheel him out on like a big bicycle-mounted puppet, like the Ursula from the Little Mermaid show. He's like, "Oh, I'm here."
Unfortunate souls.
I just assumed that all of this was encompassed in the original pitch for the project, and it would have happened if it had existed long enough, but I guess now we'll never know. Anyway, through a pretty window at the front of the lobby, you can see into the bridge, which has the biggest space windows, so you can kind of see that view into space from the atrium if it's not crowded or you're on that end of the room. The bridge was not open at all times. It was mostly locked, and then they would use it for scheduled story moments for smaller groups of guests at a time. But in the evenings when the story was over, they left it open to guests.
Are we allowed to just wander in?
I just need to know how much money they've lost on this.
Thank you.
The consoles were all turned off, so there was nothing to do in there during those times, but you could look around and use it as a photo op.
What's the joystick like?
It's nice. I like it.
I want to try it.
It's very bendy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good feel to it.
Off the lobby is a gift shop full of entirely in-universe items.
During your lightsaber training, you'll wield a lightsaber, of course. You also learn how to deflect laser blasts with a shield just like this one.
I was gonna say it can't deflect a lightsaber.
She mentions it later.
Just
yeah,
laser?
I'm sure she
For
covers
laser blasts.
every
Okay.
single
If you
thing
do a
in this.
lightsaber, I think it would be some protection.
It
on
is 4 hours.
Is it fragile?
No, it's pretty durable.
I should get this. It's plastic. It can travel.
I thought the selection of souvenirs was pretty cool, although they had no plush, which I took personally. I love that the halcyon aesthetic has everything in gold and silver and black, and it has a cool logo.
So you'll see
Whoa, I
S
like
turret
this
there.
droid. What is
Yes,
this?
He's JD series. So
Will we see him?
So our transports are driven by JDFA. So you might not
Cost
see
400
them
million
like
just
here.
building it. It was completely
They
written
have all
off
these
as a loss
in-universe
within a year.
clothes and accessories you can buy and immediately wear during your stay.
Okay, slay.
And the quality varied, but I liked the variety. I thought there were some really clever pieces.
White people,
and
thank you for
personally,
the
I think that
gifted.
in-universe items and especially wearables are always my favorite merch for anything. They were sold out of a lot of stuff when I went though, so that's kind of sad. And I read online that that was pretty much the case the entire time they were open. They never had everything in stock, and that sucks because you're probably only going to go once. I'm certainly not going to get anything else now. I should also mention that I got this big gigantic droid for like I think like $200 or something stupid. I don't want to talk about it. He's my best friend, and I love him so much. Anyway, I used the Disney Resort shipping service to send him home,
She
which
can
they
just write it
heavily
all up.
advertise everywhere because he's really big and he wouldn't fit in my luggage. And I kept my receipt, so I know I wrote my own address down correctly, but I guess when they typed it into the computer to send it to the post office, they typed a totally different address, and my droid went missing. I called a couple different departments trying to ask where my droid went and what I could do about it, and they said that there was nothing that could be done. But then after I tweeted about it on my Twitter account with a lot of followers, Disney suddenly resolved it, and they sent me a replacement. They actually overnighted it to me, and along with it, they sent a bunch of
Classic.
miscellaneous goodies, which I really appreciated. So here again, I feel like if this had happened to anyone without a lot of Twitter followers, they would have had a significantly more frustrating experience. Anyway, on the other side of the atrium, we've got the lounge.
Jenny so
I think
wanted to
this
like
area
this.
is so cool. As
Yeah, which is why I think this video is even more legitimized, because this is somebody who is obviously a Star Wars fan, went in wanting to thoroughly enjoy this very expensive immersive experience. And the fact that that is not what happened, versus like going in intentionally wanting to hate
As
something.
pictures came out, people were like, it's so small. And I agree, it's a very small space with only a few tables. But every time I went past it, it was never more than 50% full. More on that later. But anyway, at least it wasn't too small. I love all the glowing ingredient bottles behind the bar, the little inset nooks for the booths, and the quilted yellow velvet on the walls. I love quilting. It's so futuristic. This might be my favorite room on the whole ship. I really liked these weird creatures floating around in these tubes. I assume in the lore they're probably involved in making one of the drinks, but I didn't get to learn any of that stuff. And the last thing off the atrium is a little public restroom. I didn't film in there because I felt weird about it, but fortunately I did find a fan film which incorporated footage of it.
I need the sweetness right now to calm me, to bring me down.
Have you seen the video on one of the worst game shows ever?
No.
Yep.
Oh no. I have dropped the spice everywhere.
What is this, Dune?
If this is found, if I am discovered, I am ruined. I am trapped. Stay calm, get it all off the ground. This has all been
Is that
happening.
cocaine?
How am I here? I wanted to be erased.
So, as you can see, that was themed as well. Head downstairs and we've got a few story locations. There's the lightsaber training room, which is usually locked but will be used for a couple
Someone
story
was in the
moments
stall.
later. There's the climate
Someone's like,
simulator, which in actuality is a small
just trying to
courtyard.
take a
This
shit,
is for the benefit
man.
of claustrophobic guests who need to be able to see the sky
There's
and
spice in
breathe
Star
fresh
Wars,
air.
too.
I can't relate, but some people are
What the
like
hell
that.
was
In
that,
the story
though?
of the Star Cruiser, we're in space, so obviously the sky is fake. I'm doing finger quotes. I'm showing my B-roll, but I'm doing finger quotes. The room is simply simulating the climate of our destination planet so that guests can acclimate before arrival. There isn't much to do out here. They have some plants and plaques describing the plants, which we're told are in-universe, and they have all these piles of rocks.
I forget George borrowed a lot from Dune.
There's a story moment that happens here, and I'll get to it later. There's a brig, which
Yeah,
is
I've
fun
just
because
never
it
been a
foreshadows
Star
that
Wars
there's probably
head.
going to be a jailbreak at some point.
I want to get thrown in the brig.
The brig?
And then there are two locked doors, the engineering room and the cargo hold.
That's going to be one of those areas on the ship that are special credentials required. I would recommend talking to some of our very important crew members or passengers through the messages on your data pad to maybe get some access to that throughout your voyage.
You have to unlock access to those doors over the course of the story. It's mysterious.
Not the upsell, bro. God, it seems as if all they did was upsell this already atrociously
So those are all the
expensive
common areas, and I'm sure you're
experience.
wondering about the accommodations. Part 6, the room.
I swear it.
Oh!
I know, it's weird. I think maybe push it in slightly. Okay. Wow, the aesthetic of that shot was really weird.
It wasn't my fault. I was trying.
The rooms are little. I heard before I went that the rooms were going to be little, but I guess I wasn't expecting how little. And no, it being a simulation of a cruise ship is not an excuse. Rooms on cruise ships aren't small because it enhances the ambiance of the cruise. They're small for practical reasons because they're part of a massive craft that has to be able to move
Yeah,
through
like, this is a
water.
fucking
This
hotel.
fake cruise isn't actually going anywhere. And in story, this ship is supposed to be a lot bigger than the parts we can access anyway, so it wouldn't shatter my immersion to have a slightly larger room. I guess there were bigger rooms available for higher prices.
Of course,
Those rooms actually
classic.
weren't offered to me when I booked, or I might have
Classic.
gotten one of them for completion's sake. At the time I booked, they weren't even open yet, and there was very little info, so I had just sort of assumed that all rooms were equal. So it might have been nice if the booking agent warned me that I was getting the crummiest room for my
Literally
extremely
bunk
high
beds.
price point. So like, to be fair, it would obviously be overly simplistic to say that I'm paying $3,000 per night for this little room. I've seen a lot of people compare this to the price of other Disney hotels, and that's simply not accurate because at most hotels you're only paying for the room, whereas this is more about the entire experience. But you know what I can compare it to? The thing that Disney is comparing it to, a cruise. Both come with all your food, with alcohol costing extra. Galactic Star Cruiser has actors performing little dramatic scenes, some with special effects. But Disney
Fucking
Cruises have
lightsaber.
theaters on board showing what they claim to be Broadway caliber performances. And they also have roaming Disney characters to meet. Cruises are actually going somewhere, usually a private island, but the Galactic Star Cruiser does let you off into the theme park. Cruises have kids clubs with games and activities, and also have decks with giant pools and impressive water slides. So cruises do have a little more on offer, but Galactic Star Cruiser has novelty on its side, so let's just call it a wash and say they provide a roughly equivalent experience. So, okay, let's see what this price per guest per night gets you on a Disney cruise. For the Galactic Star Cruiser, it was $3,000 per night for 2 guests. So there's a 2-guest 3-night cruise to the Bahamas, and it's on the Disney Wish, their newest cruise ship. It's $97.30 total, including taxes and port fees. So that's $3,200 per night for 2 guests, or $6,400 for 2 nights. I think that's about as close as I can hope to get to the Star Cruiser's $6,000 2-night experience. So let's see what it gets us. A concierge level 1-bedroom suite with an extended
Wow.
private veranda.
Yeah.
It looks like it's right at the front of the ship. The master bedroom has a king-size bed. There's a little table and chairs to sit down and have a meal, a living room lounge area with a fold-out sofa, 2 full bathrooms, and the master bathroom comes with a double vanity mirror and jacuzzi tub. And
it looks about the
It looks
same.
like they've left this guy a little fruit basket and a bottle of chilled champagne to thank him for booking such an extravagant room. In case you haven't picked up on it yet, this is one of the fanciest ways you can ever do a Disney cruise. Given that a landlocked hotel
Oh my-
doesn't
I
even
cannot
share the
get
same
over
space
those
limitations
beds.
and overhead costs as a room in a ship at sea, I can't imagine any justification for the Galactic Star Cruiser having smaller rooms. And I know they can make the argument that you're not meant to spend that much time in your room anyway, that all the fun stuff is in the rest of the hotel, but cruise ships make that same argument too, and apparently are still more generous with their space. Disney could have spent negligibly more in the construction phase to make every room a big room, and they decided not to. There is no justifiable reason for Disney to have limited the room size.
Looks like a high-end gas station.
And to increase pressure to get you to pay
Certainly
extra for a little more space. Because again, we're on that Spirit Airlines model. Anyway, it was only 2 of us in this room, and for 2 people, I would say it's perfectly adequate space. It didn't feel luxurious, but at least it didn't feel claustrophobic.
It's like a little mouse droid.
I have to ride around on it. It's actually as fun as you would think it would be.
Wait, really? I want to do it.
I'm serious.
I want to do it. Wait, there's another one. No, get out of the way.
Because if the cheap rooms are big, then no one gets the better rooms. Right.
Okay,
it's just another way to be like, oh, you want the most luxurious room possible?
But
Pay
this
more
room
money.
we're in was advertised to fit up to 5 adults, and that, to me, is insane.
No fucking way. I forgot about that. 5 adults in that room. Ah! 5? What is this, a room for adult ants? 5 adults in that room.
You'd fit 5 people's luggage inside. One of the provided beds was a
No.
fold-down Murphy bed under the TV, and we actually ended up folding it down like a shelf just to put our suitcases on because the floor space was pretty limited otherwise. Not to mention how limited time is to get ready each day with your one tiny little shared bathroom.
No.
I saw some people defending the Star Cruiser's pricing by being like, well, if you put 5 people in the tiny room, you may be able to get it for as cheap as $1,400 per person. To which I say, that is somehow an even worse deal. If you did that, you would still be paying luxury prices, but now you would also be miserable the whole time. It's like when I went to Comic-Con in
That
college
is
with my school
insane.
friends, and like half of us were sleeping on the floor of a Motel 6. Except at a Motel 6, you're gonna pay like $20 a person, and you're probably going to get a room like twice the size of the one at Star Cruiser. The only demographic I can imagine happily splitting this room 5 ways is like 5 physically compact, able-bodied people, each an adult paying their own way, each of
One
whom travels
tiny
light
bathroom.
with only like a backpack with 2 extra t-shirts in it, none of whom wear makeup, and only some of whom shower regularly. I'm sure there are
silent
groups
fart
of
would
5
be so
friends
deadly.
who love Star Wars and fit that exact description. And even in their case, I feel like they'd be massively overpaying for what they'd be getting.
You know what, though? This would encourage you not to sleep in the room that long. You'd be like, okay, 4 hours? Great. I'm good. Let's go. Time is a ticking. Every hour it costs $120.
I think it's just trailers for Disney Plus, and then the actual stuff you can watch is just like ads and trailers and stuff. Like this isn't. The
Yeah,
movie
just
as
sign
far as
into an
it's not.
existing paid Disney Plus account.
Like, is there anything on this that's a real movie?
Show ad, I think.
What? Oh my god. Is it
No.
like a storybook reading?
Oh no, it is.
That's actually like, how much would they lose just giving people access to Disney Plus?
Anyway, there are things I like about the room. The
You
first
have
one
to
is just
have
luck, but
Disney
our room
Plus.
was extremely well positioned. The hallways with the guest rooms were super long, and ours was like right at the
They
top of
don't
the
even
hallway, I
give
think,
you
because I booked
Disney
so early.
Plus in
we
the
were
Disney
in room 4-103.
hotel.
The 4 means that in the story of the cruise, we were on the 4th deck of the ship, but the 103 means that in real life, we were on the ground floor of the building. That means that in a fire, we would probably live, which is always fortunate. And it
Yeah.
also means that we shared a floor with a lot of the amenities, like the climate simulator, the dining room,
Yeah,
and the
but remember the
transportation to
panic
theme park.
rooms.
It was crazy convenient. I slept in the top bunk of the bunk beds, and I really loved my little space pod.
I kind of like the idea of being in a little space cubby.
Yeah, it does look pretty cozy. Wait, I want to see if things are squishy.
$3,000 worth of cozy.
Wait, what is that? Oh, maybe it's a little reading light. Oh yeah, it is. See?
Let's see the panic closet.
Oh,
This is sick.
Wait, you should do it. It feels good.
Oh, I want to do it. Oh, it does. Nice.
It's padded all the way around, and it made me feel like I was in a little sci-fi
Is she so okay with
cocoon.
this?
The
Oh,
mattress
she's
is
not.
really
And if
firm,
you've ever seen her
that's what my
videos,
back likes. I know
she's
some people like a
furious.
soft mattress, and they may have not liked it, but I liked it. They left these quilts on the bunk beds. It's basically just a mattress.
But
with
this
a
is
fitted
also one
sheet,
of her
and then
big-
you drape
probably
a
gonna be
quilt
one of her
over
biggest
you.
videos.
That's actually how I sleep at home because it's easier to make the bed that way. So no shade. I actually really wish they sold the quilts in the gift shop because that would have been like my favorite souvenir. I heard that some people just stole the quilts and then they charged the credit card attached to the room, and I should have done that. I should have stolen the quilt. I loved the overall aesthetics of the room. If they had made the room bigger or the price point smaller, it would have been an A+ from me.
Oh, look, little space details at the foot of the bed.
Cute. I call it scribblies.
And then of course we've got the shame closet. I'm ambivalent about it. I just wanted to show it to you.
The shame closet! Oh my god!
No story. Yeah, that makes sense. They left us a little
Imagine
souvenir
dying
tin
in
with
that.
makeup remover wipes and bubbling face masks. I tried them and they were really nice, and I ordered more online. A+. Look, they're branded and everything. It's so cute. And the illustrations on the back show a Twi'lek using it. I love it. I would totally keep buying them, except
It's the
now
aesthetic
Star
of the
Cruiser is
prison
going
from
out of
Andor.
business, and the soap company that makes them is also going out of business. It's a curse. I should also mention that each guest room had this little terminal where you could talk to an AI droid character.
Cute. It's a map of the ship.
Well, I certainly didn't plan for stormtroopers to use the bunk bed.
Yeah, just burning to death in the shame closet in your 3,000 a night hotel room.
Aboard.
Look at this. Come see it.
Yay!
Hi.
I just can't get over thinking of 5 adults in that.
To discuss your journey.
Sure.
Wonderful.
No, I don't like it.
I'm sorry, I just don't find this kind of technology very interesting. It's cool that she's animated, but this just feels so limited, at least at this point in time. Like, I have an Amazon device
Like,
that
what the
turns on
robot
my
do?
lights for me, but I wouldn't do that on vacation as an activity. Do you know what I'm saying? So I tried to give it a fair shot for a minute, but then I wanted to leave, and I'm afraid I never tried it again.
Before I forget, did you bring any Dianoga eggs with you on board?
Yeah.
I'm so pleased we found you. We found the eggs unattended in the hydrolift and wondered where they came from. I'll move them to containment for our voyage. Now, as for what you can do first. Now.
Yeah, this sucks.
Anything else?
This is
I'll let
boring.
you go.
Who cares?
Okay.
Best journey.
Bye. Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the space window.
That is cute.
That's so cute. It doesn't read well on camera. It's literally just our reflections in it. Hello.
I saw a lot of people bashing the space window.
Time
and
is
arguing
money.
between sticks in the mud. One of the most common refrains was, "Who wants to pay thousands of dollars to sleep in a windowless coffin?" I don't know. I guess I'm built different, but in the short term, I don't really care about having windows or seeing the sun. Maybe this is why my sleep schedule is so broken.
You just hit light speed and
I
we're somewhere
relate.
new now. This is probably the best looking animation I've
The thing
seen
is, a child would enjoy it, but a child ain't paying for it.
We're watching Ghost Adventures.
A child would enjoy it for like 2
I
seconds.
think a space window is a cool substitute and prefer having a themed view to an ordinary one, and didn't feel claustrophobic about not having a real window. But I didn't think the effect was all the way there.
Why is it so smeary? So that's from every angle? Yes. Okay, interesting.
It never looked very convincing.
I think that looks real
To
as
be
hell.
fair, they don't show up well on camera, but to be totally honest, they don't look much better in person. Worst of all, they've got these bright light strips pointed outward around the perimeter of the window. I assume there's some kind of...
It is claustrophobic to me. I'm looking at this. This is a YouTube video, and I feel claustrophobic in that room. I need windows. I don't want that fake shit.
Optical illusion science at play here, like maybe the power of contrast.
Not
or
for me.
Maybe keeping our pupils little is meant to make the effect look less bad. But unfortunately, at bedtime, most people find those light strips too bright to sleep with, and they're right next to the bed because the room is tiny. They do have this button you can press to close the window, so
Especially with
turn it
with
off.
the panic
and
room.
that shuts off the lights.
I'm just gonna do a lot of like slow pans. What'd you do?
I'm not built different.
What'd you do?
I closed the. What? I closed the screen.
Oh my god.
Do it. Do it.
I'm sleeping in the panic room.
broke
That's
it.
where the
It's never
fifth
gonna
adult
happen
has to
again.
go.
But that means if you want those LED strips turned off, you have to turn off the space window, which I would have liked to leave on so I could enjoy it while settled down in my little cocoon. After the hotel had been open a few months, I started seeing posts pop up in Disney World fan groups being
Blocking
like,
space
pro
windows
tip,
at-
bring gaffer's tape and manual...
Question, I've heard a few mentions of people suggesting bringing tape or something so you could leave the viewport going out at night without being blasted with light. Has anyone actually done this? Is it practical? One of my main tips is bring blue painter's tape for your bedroom window. This allows you to see the window at night as you prepare to sleep. Otherwise, you will have bright white lights shining in your face, or you close the window to turn off the lights. The tape was very easy to remove and left no residue marks. This is insane. This is insane. $3,000 a night. As my mother mentioned in the comments, this is 2 layers of painter's tape to block the bright light enough for nighttime enjoyment. We tried the trick of using 1-inch blue painter's tape to dim the surrounding lights while still seeing space at night. Worked great. Came off clean before we left. Yet you shouldn't have to be doing that in the first place.
Manually cover all the light strips around the window so you can enjoy it at night. And first of all, most people would not know to do that, so that's not helpful for everyone staying at the hotel. And secondly, it's a little pathetic to be paying luxury prices for a hotel room where you have to then spend 20 minutes putting gaffer's tape on the walls
you have to
make
bring
its features
tape.
functional. I really love the idea of a themed hotel room. In fact, whenever I go to a new place, one of the first things I do is Google city name plus themed hotel to see if there are any options. That's how I end up staying in train cars and tiny western towns.
Kungi, thank you for 10 months.
So, while I think the demographic for
Take
a
some
luxury price themed
hallucinogens.
hotel has got to be extremely small, I am squarely in that demographic. And even with that in mind, this room fell short of my expectations. So, C+ for the room. Part 7, the characters. Since this is a multi-branching story, I think the best way to explain it to you guys is just to explain each separate character and their arc. The following characters are the central cast walking around the ship for guests to freely interact with. Captain Kevin. She is a resistance ally working undercover. I know she's generally trying to help the resistance,
What
but
is that,
I'm
the
not
Blue
really
Man
sure what her
group?
overall goal is because I'm not really sure what the resistance's goal is. I think it's something about getting coaxium, but I didn't hear any express purpose for it or like anything to give that mission a sense of urgency. In a lot of the publicity photos, this character's design looks whack, in my opinion. I think because you've got the very fake-looking shiny red wig and the blue skin and the uncanny contact lenses, but in person under atmospheric lighting it worked a lot better for me. The captain was probably my favorite character. I feel like we kept running into her. Lenka Mock, she's the cruise director, so like the second in command to the captain. We also never really talked to her one-on-one. I think maybe she wasn't free roaming as much as the others. We tended to mostly see her pop up for scheduled story scenes, but I think her character's deal is maybe she starts out neutral and then becomes a resistance ally, but that was just my impression. I might be wrong. Maybe she was with the resistance the whole time. Lieutenant Croy is a first order officer investigating the ship.
Oh no!
This was another of my favorite characters. This actor had such great villain energy.
I will use a restraining bolt to disable him.
No! We talked to him a lot too. We were actually trying to get the First Order storyline, but you'll hear more about that later. Croy also brought 2 stormtroopers with him. They don't have names, but I felt like I should mention them because they're also
someone
actors.
was playing a
I think their
guitar?
dialogue is pre-recorded, like the ones in the theme park. Although they do have a whole soundboard to choose from, so there's still interactivity there.
Oh my god, he's got a gun. Very intimidating.
Look how clever you are. Good for you.
No.
Sammy is the ship's engineer. He's like a bumbling newbie on the job and begins the
Pre-recorded?
story
I'm
as a
dead.
neutral character and a coward. On a couple occasions, he gets peer pressured into helping the First Order and then feels guilty about it. And ultimately, he becomes a resistance hero. SK-620 is
Where's the luggage
astromech
smuggling?
on board, and they are secretly sympathetic to the resistance.
Oh, it's SK. SK.
I thought they sold it on luggage smuggling.
He's looking around.
SK, come in here. Get in here, buddy.
SK.
I love SK. SK is a free roaming droid.
That's
You can go
not
right up to them
R2D2?
and touch them and stuff.
He's going up the ramp.
I don't know that you will all keep her safe.
We will. I would die for him.
Who the hell is SK?
Might be a thing that you don't have to do because you would go back and hide.
I actually spotted the dude controlling SK once. In the grand tradition of
Short
theme
gang.
park robot puppeteers, he's disguised as a dad in street clothes with a bulky camera bag. I'm not showing you this because I think it's a bad thing that I spotted him.
Yeah,
but just
all
because
droids
it's a
look
little
alike,
movie
yeah.
magic for you guys. So
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy that. I didn't spot him in any other scenes, so I think he generally
How much would I
blended
have
in
to
really
be
well
paid
with the
to be the
crowd
Blue Woman
and
captain?
stayed pretty far away from SK most of the time,
I'd do
except
it for
for
free.
moments in the bridge where they were worried they were going to run over a child. Gaia is a Twi'lek pop star who's performing on the ship, but the performance is really just a ruse to steal an artifact the ship has on display. The ship is from Old Republic times, and in the lobby they've got a big gem which is sacred to the Twi'lek people, but was stolen by colonizers a long time ago. So Gaia wants to grab it and return it to her homeworld. I think she's also a Resistance sympathizer.
I would do the musical theater
maybe
part.
She just hates the establishment. I'm not sure. Wraith Cole is Gaia's manager. I avoided him like the plague because you can tell just looking at him that this guy is the smuggler storyline, and I aggressively did not want to do the smuggler storyline. I'm sorry.
Why?
That's my subjective taste. And I was right, and it worked. Mission accomplished. Anyway, he's helping Gaia steal the stone, I guess. Before my trip, I had actually heard some of the Star Cruiser designers saying that there were all these storylines you could explore, and that one of them was a romance.
You don't want
You
to
join the
smuggle
Resistance?
luggage?
Do you join the First Order? Are you a scoundrel? There's a love story on board. There's everything you could possibly want.
Do you know my favorite thing? I love the idea that the smuggling luggage is just a way to get people who are paying thousands of dollars for this immersive experience to be bellhops. It's like, we're not going to pay bellhops to carry people's luggage. Instead, you're going to smuggle luggage. And it's going to be awesome.
Dinner where, in my opinion, there was some sort of a sexual tension between Wraith Cole and Linka Mock. And at that moment, I was like, oh, we're not really interacting with either of those characters, but that must be the romance plot. And she's very by the book, and he's a scoundrel. It's kind of like a Han and Leia sort of dynamic. And my intuition was wrong. We'll get back to that later. Sandro is Gaia's guitarist. He has to learn to believe in himself or something. We didn't really talk to him. He's like that guitarist. He has to learn to believe.
No one looks like they're having fun. Everyone looks fucking miserable.
Believe in himself or something. We didn't really talk to him. He's like that guy at a party who brings a guitar and takes requests. I saw in a lot of media preview photos that they had him in different makeup and just wearing a scarf on his head. But on our cruise, he was a Tabruta, so he had that head thing that Ahsoka has. I kind of assume he's always meant to have the hat. And like, maybe they just ran out of time to put the hat on a couple times and they were like, well, we'll have to commit to this look for the rest of the cruise. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that all the other characters are the same every time and this one isn't. Uani is my very favorite, so I left her for last.
What? He just starts playing Wonderwall.
We should follow her. She's a Rhodian, the same species as Greedo, so the performer is wearing a full-face animatronic mask. She speaks pre-recorded phrases in an alien language, and her mouth moves, along with the skin around her eyes and her little antenna things.
Oh, thank you. My hat?
Yeah, some jizz music.
Yeah. Right? It goes with the I can't wait to see your show. We're going to the 8 o'clock one. Yeah, you'll see us there.
I don't know. I don't speak.
This sounds cool.
She's Gaia's backup singer and plays some kind of weird alien instrument. I think her main plot is that she's talented enough to be a star in her own right, but the manager doesn't see her potential. Maybe out of speciesism or something.
I cannot with the
since
fucking
she's the most
guitar.
alien-looking character on the ship. Saja is either a character or a group. I couldn't figure out if this character was one individual named Saja or a religious order called the Saja, consisting of like 3 or 4 people. There were multiple characters wearing the same tunic and beads, and I'm like 90% sure that more than one of them called themselves Saja. But in the app, you can get text from Saja, and then the icon is just an image of one lady, so I don't get it. Anyway, my impression is that these are sort of like the Chirrut Imwe character from Rogue One, who I'm sure nobody remembers by name, but he's the one who's like not a Jedi, he's a monk that studies the Force. So I think that's their deal. I think they're not Jedi, I think they just study it and teach lightsaber training and can move things with the Force and dress kind of like Jedi. That's very similar to Jedi, what I'm describing. Don't ask me how it fits into canon. I don't have the answers you seek. So all of the above cast members that I've just listed will be on the ship for about 8 hours per day. Actually, the total length of time spans 9 hours because the performers are taking staggered lunch breaks in the middle, but they're staggered so you don't notice. They also kind of stagger when they send them out, so it doesn't feel so much like, oh, the character's shift has begun. Like you'll notice on day 1, Uani arrives a bit earlier than the others, and I think that's because Uwani is probably split between 2 performers with overlapping shifts. That means they can stretch her time on the ship a little longer, and also she could take more frequent breaks because they probably overheat really fast in there. Similarly, SK is on stage a lot longer than the other actors.
Okay, obviously, there's still a lot of the video left, so I'm sure there's more things going on. But is that just like what you do for hours? Is you sit there with these performers listening to them play guitar?
And I think that's just because droids have much worse labor unions. And then after all those guys, we have the movie characters. Chewbacca, I don't really know why he's here. Every Chewbacca story moment involves hiding Chewbacca or freeing Chewbacca from jail after failing to hide him. So I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. Rey, I have no idea what in the world Rey is doing on this ship. Rey just ran through here.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
She ran into there and then pried open those doors.
Literally my worst nightmare, just a weekend of improv.
Holocron. Spoilers.
Yes. A Jedi holocron.
Paying thousands of dollars.
It seemed like that was a surprise to her, so I don't know why she showed up to begin with. Maybe she just wanted to take a cruise. Kylo Ren, I think he's just here to kill us. Like he heard there were resistance sympathizers and wants to kill and torture us. Admittedly, seems like a pretty small fish to fry when you're the supreme leader of the galaxy, but I won't pretend Kylo Ren was ever a reasonable guy. May he rest in peace. Interestingly, unlike the theme park, this version of Kylo Ren is actually performing his dialogue live through a voice changer. That feels like a little bit of extra effort on the part of the tech crew, which I appreciate, but I don't really see the point. Kylo Ren only appears in a couple short, pre-scripted scenes that seem super choreographed, so it's not like the actor has that much freedom in the performance anyway, and it can sometimes be hard to understand what he's saying.
Oh, you guys can't understand that?
It would have been cooler to have the stormtroopers speaking through voice changers, since
Free
those are the
Palestine
ones you
today,
can
thank you for the 10
actually
months.
interact with. But whatever. The movie characters do not wander freely like the central cast do. They appear in story moments as like cameos, usually paired with one of the cruise ship characters, but then when the scene is over, they make themselves scarce. So you won't be making small talk with these guys. Oh, and of course, there's me! Since we're living our own Star Wars story, I thought we were supposed to come up with our own characters. I knew I would be filming the whole time, and also that I was hoping to get the First Order story path. So I decided to be Amethea Taupe, an influencer from Coruscant. That's a core world, a wealthy planet, and a political center. I just thought being rich and from there would be as good a way as any to signal complacency with a fascist government. I even brought Skippy, my spoiled little handbag alien dog. See, I made him a little hat. It looks kind of bad, but I made it. I was going to only carry Skippy for one of the 2 days because he's real big, but people seem to really like him, and it occurred to me that maybe if I had him every day, he would be a good recognizable accessory so characters could remember who I was even though I was changing my clothes. If you're not familiar with Skippy, he's a character from a defunct Disney World attraction, and when Captain Kevin saw him, she called him by his name right away.
And Skippy?
Skippy, exactly.
Yes.
You're a fan.
Well,
like I said, we love Captain Kevin. Isn't that right, Skippy? That means, yeah, that's how his kind agree. Anyway, having experienced the Star Cruiser, my takeaway is this. It's not really worth coming up with a character. The performers will ask you your name, but when you give an obviously fake name, they look at you funny and make you feel like you have committed a faux pas. All I can think is, even though I went pretty early, maybe the actors had already encountered too many guests who wanted to roleplay to a weird extent, like trying to be the main character.
The actors
or
are like,
bringing
I
too
am
much
not paid
emotional
enough.
intensity to the game.
These actors are like, I went to Yale School of Drama. Yale fucking School of Drama. I am $180,000 in debt. Kill me.
But again, that's just the vibe I got from the frozen grimaces I received when I tried to
went
use
to
a fake
Juilliard
name.
for
It's also
this.
possible that the actors are being fed information, which would be linked to the legal name that you booked your hotel under. I'll get to that later. So anyway, I dropped the character name within like an hour of arrival. But I do think it's handy to bring a memorable prop or accessory as a conversation piece. I like how I'm giving advice.
Durl,
as if you're
thank
gonna
you for the
book it.
prime.
Part 8, the food. As on a real cruise, the food is
Okay,
included
I
in
would
the price,
love to know what
so
the
it's
food
all
is
going
like.
to be free. Well, you've already paid. It's prepaid. The only refreshments that cost extra money are the alcoholic beverages, and they have some mocktails that cost money too. I know on some real cruises the alcohol is free, but to my knowledge on every Disney cruise it's not free. So this was kind of expected for me. I was frankly overwhelmed by the amount of food. They do a scheduled breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every meal is all you can eat. Outside of meal times, the bar in the atrium also has a whole separate appetizer menu you can order from, and those are also all complimentary. I loved this cloche filled with smoke, and then they lift it up and it's full of little cheese balls and crackers. They also leave out very simple snacks in the atrium between meals, like yogurt, fruit cups, Parmesan crisps, and then like some child pleasers like cake pops and goldfish crackers. I saw some haters online being like, wow, paying that much for goldfish crackers? And it's like, okay guys, that's obviously for toddlers. But yes, they have goldfish crackers. I did actually eat a couple. But what I'm saying is you will not be hungry on this trip.
I would
It's
eat
impossible.
$3,000
The breakfasts
worth of
and
food a
lunches
day.
are buffet style, and they have these little space trays with squares and rectangles you can slot the food dishes onto. I saw some people complain about the tiny portions on these little plates, and I don't understand that because it's a buffet. If you really like something, you can
Just
grab 10.
take
But
more.
I liked that they were kind of sample sizes. It made it feel low commitment to try everything.
actually
they
like
also have
this,
waiters
too.
wandering around to take drink orders at the buffet service meals. The dining room drinks menu is different from the lounge menu, but the waiters at meals can bring you anything from either menu. They can also bring you normal Earth cocktails if you don't want any of the crazy themed stuff, but in my opinion, you went all the way to space. You should get the themed stuff. They have a soda fountain with all the soda logos in Arabesh, just like in the theme park land, and they also have blue and green milk on tap. In the parks, blue and green milk is like a frozen milkshakey texture, and because it's plant-based, it separates a little when it melts, which I think is kind of gross. The Star Cruiser versions of the milk are the texture of milk. I'd compare it to like an Odwalla smoothie, a drinkable yogurt. I don't really like frozen drinks, so I way preferred the Star Cruiser version. It's actually what I was hoping the theme park version would be. Flavor-wise, they're the same as the parks. The blue is fruity and the green is floral.
Okay,
Everyone
that's
hates
not
the
as
green
bad.
milk,
I
but
thought it was just
personally
milk.
like them both. The dinners are both table service
just
and
flavored
brought out
milk.
in courses on platters for the table to
That
share.
looks
I
good.
think not everybody realized this, but the table service dinners are also all you can eat. If you have a favorite item you finished off, you can ask your waiter to bring out a whole new plate of it.
That
and
looks
they will.
fire.
Also, I'm pretty sure the dessert at the first dinner was literally the same dessert you can buy in Pandora, the World of Avatar. I love that dessert, so I was happy, but it is kind of weird that it was the same. One thing that's true of all Disney's table service restaurants is that they're really flexible about dietary needs. If you have an allergy, they'll bring the chef out to speak with you
Okay,
and make
food
sure
looks
you're on the same
good.
page. And if they don't have any menu items that can accommodate it, they'll just like think of something special to make. Also, every meal offers the kids' picky eater trifecta of chicken nuggies, pizza,
Classic.
and mac and cheese. And if you're an adult with no allergies and you're just a picky eater, you can order off the kids' menu to your heart's content. But honestly, the space food had very
I just can't imagine being a picky eater adult spending this much money and eating fucking chicken nuggets.
intimidating flavor profiles. It would be like, oh, this tastes like a grilled cheese. This tastes like a curry. This tastes like a pizza. It's a salad with ranch. I will say, though, that Night 2's table service dinner had pretty abysmal vegetarian offerings. I said all that stuff about bringing out the chef and, like, he'll make you something from scratch, but, like, it didn't even occur to me that I would have to do that.
All you
because
can
every
eat,
other
though.
Disney restaurant I've been to, they always have at least one plant-based offering. In fact, that's true at most non-Disney restaurants as well. But no, when you show up to dinner on Night 2, that's very much not the case. Only the appetizer is vegetarian, and then courses 2 and 3 are both only meat options. Like, they have multiple options, but all the options are meat. And I know you're like, why didn't you just say something? But like, I felt like by the time I realized it was kind of too late to ask the chef to make me something from scratch. And also I'm shy, so I didn't say
Nah,
anything.
girl, you paying
so I
a
didn't
lot
have
of
any
money.
Food. But I thought that was very unexpected and very strange. I did see somebody on Twitter that asked for a vegetarian option at this meal, and they said they were just like brought a plate of boiled cauliflower. Even though I didn't say anything to the waiter, he did notice I wasn't eating anything from those courses, and he brought us an extra plate loaded down with Mustafarian bread and cheese, which was so kind. And honestly, I didn't even have much of an appetite at this meal. All the cumulative heavy meals were really getting to me, so I wasn't that bothered. Overall, though, I really
6K
liked the
for boiled
menus. On the off chance
cauliflower.
I had left dinner hungry on Night 2, I could have just gone to the lounge and ordered some of those heavy apps, and it would have been fine. One area where they really went above...
Yeah, look, there's no such thing as shyness when you're paying this much money. Okay, y'all? All right, just keep that in mind. If you're paying a shit ton of money for something, There's no such thing as being too shy.
And beyond is that every single meal had unique items on offer. I thought the lunch on day 2 would be the same as lunch on day 1 because most guests go to eat in the theme park on day 2, so I would have kind of excused them for repeating a menu. But no, all new things. Same for breakfast on checkout day. I thought a lot of people are skipping breakfast and leaving. It'll probably be the same as yesterday's breakfast. Nope. New stuff. A couple favorite items returned, like the pastries and waffles, but most of the egg and meat options were unique. The muffin on the pastry plate is croissant dough filled with a tart passion fruit paste and was one of my favorite things on the whole spaceship. I wish I was eating it right now. So after all that stuff I just said, you might be surprised to hear that I have a pretty big complaint for this section of the video. I said I have no issue with the food, and I don't, but dinner on night 1 was a dinner show. And I have a bone to pick with the dinner show. This is the big Gaia performance they've been hyping up from the beginning. I should tell you that a lot of people are mad about the character of Gaia, probably because she was first introduced in an ad that was extremely weird and badly shot and acted. The main issue people had with Gaia is that she didn't feel Star Wars enough, and I'm ambivalent on that. I mean, she looks Star Wars because she's a Twi'lek. I agree that her songs are not that Star Wars because many of them are in English. I mean, her hit single is called Rockstar Queen. I would never have imagined that the word rockstar exists in the Star Wars universe. It barely even exists anymore on modern day Earth. But once they committed to having a live human singer, they were essentially forced to have the bulk of the lyrics be in a language she can understand and remember. She does have some songs with portions in Huttese, which is nice. Actually, I think Ula Shuka is entirely in Huttese. Also, Uwani brings us some alien squealing sounds for backing vocals, and that's fun. Initially, I was extremely disappointed when I learned that the dinner show wouldn't be a Chuck E. Cheese-esque animatronic band, which would have made the price tag of the whole thing worth it to me. But Uwani does have an animatronic head, so that's something. Some of the song lyrics are
she went to Juilliard,
hokey
okay?
references to Star Wars things, like "Baby, let me light your Kyber," and there's a whole song about the power of coaxium. Honestly, I'm in favor
Which
of
is
that.
the best
I wish they had
song.
just gone all in on that concept. Her song Gaia, which is one of my favorites, has a whole first verse where she's basically telling the audience her backstory, being born into slavery, working in the criminal underground, and then becoming a pop star. I love all that.
I wasn't chained to the sun, man. City slumming at the bottom of the line.
I'm dying. I'm fucking dying.
Purple stones were the only way I made my ride.
But then there are other lyrics in that same song that have no place in Star Wars. Singing my praise like a choir, deep pockets, I make it rain.
How far in are we? An hour
These genuinely
23.
sound like placeholder lyrics they just put in the demo when they were figuring out the melody. Like they were later meant to be replaced by something more thematic and clever, but then they just weren't. I personally think they could have put like an additional 3 hours of work into refining the lyrics. I think that would have made a big difference. You may have noticed that up until this point in my review, I haven't really been too preoccupied with how Star Wars the whole thing is. To be quite honest, I don't really care about that. I care about how good it is. I like themed experiences, period. This kind of weird, immersive LARP hotel concept would have been interesting to me, even if it was just an unlicensed venture and the theme was spaceship. So all that to say, I was kind of cautiously excited for this dinner show from an alien band. I thought at worst I might be a little underwhelmed, but I like shows, I like kitsch, I like aliens. I did a whole video years ago about how much I love Sunny Eclipse, the singing alien animatronic in Magic Kingdom's burger restaurant. I figured it would probably be kind of irreverent and dorky, but I like stuff like that. And I think on the whole, I probably would have liked this show. I say probably because I couldn't see the show because they sat me behind a pole.
No. Oh? I would just be getting so drunk.
Here she comes.
I would be throwing back those space balls or whatever the hell drinks they have.
I can't get over this. I really can't.
Now, I'm not accustomed to sharing the spotlight with
No
dinner.
way.
But
Dinner seating is pre-assigned. We didn't get a choice in this. The dining room has like a recessed center area where most of the seating is, and then around the perimeter of the room they have these elevated booths against the wall. And those two sections are separated by these fat support columns, which I don't even know if those serve a structural purpose. They might just be for atmosphere.
Okay, like, I'm sure it's
fine.
Oh,
I would be
this
pissed.
Probably is the worst seat in the house, right? Yeah.
I'd be like, how do I get floor seats?
Seat in the house, and it was not fine. I couldn't see a thing. I was at the very edge of the booth trying to peer out, and I couldn't see anything. My sister was at the back of the booth, all the way against the wall, trying to see around the other side of the pole, and her view was even worse.
No.
Gaia walked around the main dining area a couple times, so we could a little bit see the top of
$3K
her
for a
head
pole
for
show,
some moments.
and not even like a stripper pole show.
Magnetic, it's life-changing, it's me.
In one song, she even came up on the outer perimeter and walked past our booth. But for literally 90% of the show, pole footage. I hope you guys like my quality pole footage. Just trust me, there's aliens singing behind that big old pole. Wani is my favorite character and the most whimsical, spacey thing happening in the show. But she had her weird alien instrument up on the stage, so she mostly stayed planted there. There's even this choreography where they're like leaning back and forth, and it feels like they're making fun of me because they keep kind of leaning in view and then back away.
This sucks dick, honestly. I would have been like, get me at a different table. Oh, these weren't free tickets. She paid for this.
There's one song where Uwani makes alien sound backing vocals in the chorus. Well, I didn't realize she was doing that until I got home and watched other people's vlog footage because we couldn't see her face most of the time. At the time, I just thought it was like a synth noise on the track.
Just give me the Star Wars
I think it's really
special.
delightful that she's singing, so I wish I could have enjoyed that experience real time. To be frank, I think it's pathetic that I paid $6,000 to go to the Star Wars hotel, and I sat in the room where this show is happening, and I had to go on YouTube in order to see what was going on. Another guest replied to me on Twitter that was at the same table as me, and she was trying to be very glass half full about it. She was like, well,
ain't no way.
Since I couldn't see from my table, I had to stand up and just go awkwardly, like, walk toward the stage and stand there the whole meal. And that was great because I had such a good view once I did that. And it's like, it's a dinner show. You're supposed to be seated and eating. I mentioned earlier that I failed to book the captain's table because I didn't know about it. So the captain's table experience is basically that you're in the center table down on the floor. And theoretically, the captain will come by and hang out with you a bit.
Gotta pay more to be able to see. You want to see the show? You gotta pay more.
Sometimes I think Lieutenant Croy sits with you for a minute. We could see the captain's table from afar, and it looked like they didn't actually get that much extra time with the characters. I've read that they also got a couple unique extra food items, but that's not a super big deal. But in my opinion, the main benefit to the captain's table is that you're positioned at a table where you'll definitely be able to see the show. So in my opinion, you kind of do have to book the captain's table. Like, it is necessary for a good experience. That's not the way it should be, but that's the way it is. And that makes me feel angry. When I go someplace like this and I know I'm doing a review, I don't have to feel like so much of an idiot when I waste a bunch of money because I know I'm going to earn it back on the video anyway. So it does lend a sort of comedy of errors vibe when things go wrong. Like, in a narrative sense, it is kind of funny that they put me behind a pole. Here she comes. Like, I didn't go on the media weekend. I was probably the only person in that whole room that was filming a review. They really played themselves here. But I have to admit, I genuinely
put me at that
really
fucking captain's
disappointed
table
that
right
this
now.
happened. Part 9. Choose your own adventure. Okay. Let's get into the gameplay.
Costume
First, let's
change.
recall how this was promoted. As an interactive experience where you become the hero of your own Star Wars story.
This vid
choose
has
your
been
own
doing
team,
numbers,
choose your
yeah.
own path, live your Star Wars story.
It's a huge video.
Of who you make allegiances with.
Like, it was trending on Twitter.
The choices you make affect the course of your journey and ultimately determines how your Star Wars story unfolds.
And it's your story.
That's right.
It's your story.
And live
Your
out all the
story.
different storylines. They get
Did
to
we mention
choose who they
smuggling
wanna be loyal
luggage?
to.
The story will depend on what you do. Choose your own path.
As a passenger, you get to choose your own path. Do you join the resistance? Do you join the First Order? Are you a scoundrel?
It is
There's
your
a love story on board.
Do you want to help the light side of the Force? Do you want to tap into your
Fake
dark side?
podcast.
We're going to invite guests to become the hero of their own Star Wars adventure.
And it'll be
you can
so
do it in whatever way
immersive.
you like.
Ad materials showed kids helping Chewbacca or snitching Chewbacca out to the cops and getting him arrested. The possibilities are endless. That was probably the most advertised aspect of the experience, that you would choose between a number of branching paths. As it got closer to launch, it became clearer what those paths were going to be. First
Who
Order,
pays
Resistance,
$6,000
or
to be a
Smuggler. I've seen
snitch?
some people say Jedi was also a path, and I would argue that it was not. You could unlock a couple Jedi scenes, but they were tangential to whatever main path you were already on. They weren't their own story track. So first I'm going to tell you how all this is supposed to work to the best of my knowledge. The gameplay is actually split into two halves, actor-based gameplay and app-based gameplay. The small cast of actors are the NPCs for this experience, the non-player characters. Each individual character has their own schedule set in stone, and then there is a corresponding, seemingly algorithm-driven app
No, this
working
is
in
a new
tandem with
video,
the human
but yes, the
performers, which
hotel
is why this
closed.
schedule is so important. The same computer program that's organizing
it's
the
4
actors
hours,
is
so it took
also
her
guiding the
months.
itinerary of the hotel guests. You can interact with the characters in person, but you also use the app to receive text messages from them.
Wait, I'm
obviously,
sorry. I missed that because I was answering that person's question. This is app-based? Choose your own story? And you need a fucking app?
these texts aren't really coming from the actor, they're from the app, and you can reply with a menu of choices from a dialogue tree to get pre-written answers. In this way, you can build affiliations with different characters, which theoretically sets you on one of the available story paths. I feel like my viewers know that whenever I use the word theoretical, things are about to take a turn. This information has not been publicly released, but allegedly the actors have some way of syncing real time to the data in the app. Allegedly, this may be done via earpieces. I said earlier that all the guests are wearing these little wristbands with RFID chips, so allegedly the characters all have proximity readers wired into their clothing. When you approach them, their reader detects your bracelet, identifies your profile in the app, and then their earpiece can feed them information about you. So we don't know exactly what would be said in these alleged earpieces, but for example, maybe it says, trust level high, and then the actor knows to greet you warmly. They could even use this tech to remind the actors of your name if they wanted to. The proximity readers could also theoretically send data back to the app, so if you spent a long time interacting with a particular character, that would boost your trust score with them and impact your story
7K to
path.
steal
so
your
let's say
data.
you've been texting a lot in the app with the AI version of the First Order General. The AI can ask you if you want to help him in his mission. You can say yes. The app can assign you tasks that don't require any actor involvement, like check that computer terminal for me, and then track whether you fulfill these tasks. The app knows
So
the actor's
immersive.
schedules, so
Yeah,
the AI
immersive
version of the
data
General
theft.
can text you, meet me in the atrium at 4:30, knowing that the actor will actually be there at that time. Then when you see the actor, his earpiece tells him, name, Jenny, trust level, 80%. And then the actor knows to say, Jenny, you've been very helpful to me. Well done. Thus marrying the two halves of the gameplay in a way that feels seamless on the user end. From there, the characters you've been loyal to can pull you into unique in-person story moments to involve you further.
Oh, here's me tricking some stormtroopers into going into the brig so that we could lock them inside.
Day one's schedule is already programmed
That's
in for
funny.
you before you arrive. You'll have training on the bridge, lightsaber training, and be seated for one of two possible dinner times. And in between those activities, you're meant to be utilizing the app and talking with the AI versions of the characters. You may also have interactions with the actors while doing so. At the end of day one, the app checks all your loyalty scores to figure out which story path you're on. It then uses that information to create your day two schedule, which is more personalized and storyline specific. So when you wake up, you'll see that you already have mission assignments waiting for you for the side you're affiliated with, and you'll also be put in corresponding story scenes. So for example, if you're on the First Order side, you might be asked to locate contraband cargo and then be dropped into a couple First Order cutscenes, and maybe they even mention the cargo as a reward for the task you completed. Or maybe you'll get invited to a meeting with the stormtroopers, or see the general get a call from the Supreme
Homework?
Leader, or something like that. Something that makes you feel more directly involved with the story. I imagine there are...
Look, y'all, I know this is some people's thing. This is not my thing. I can say assuredly, even if this were not such a spectacular disaster, ain't no way. I'm not spending that kind of money taking the vacation time and doing all this stuff. It doesn't seem that...
Probably 5 or 6
Think of the
possible
immersion.
cutscenes running for each story path, so the app just schedules you into, let's say, 2 of those per person. Then everyone gets the same finale, which is a big performance in the atrium and wraps up all the story threads. And if you've been a particularly proactive player, there are moments when the actors can shout you out by name, integrated into the finale. That all sounds conceptually very clever, and if it works, sounds like a pretty fun experience, right? I think so too. Part 10, living my Star Wars story. Okay, so I'm going to be frank, the gameplay did not work for us at all. At some point, there was some kind of critical logistical failure which broke every aspect of it. I was continually frustrated the entire time I was there, and I left extremely disappointed. In our particular experience, none of the actions we took at any point directed the course of our story in any way, and I have guesses as to how that happened, but I'm gonna get to that later. So... here's how it went for us. I knew going in that I wanted to pick one story path because that would be the best way to gauge how well the experience works. They say it's a choose your own adventure, so I would
choose your own adventure, but also it doesn't matter.
I decided that I was pretty set on getting First Order because it had been met with the most skepticism as a story path, and also Disney is a family experience and presumably motivated not to have a losing team, so I was very curious how they would handle a villain side of the story. So at first when they turned us loose in the ship, I had no idea what to do with myself. They don't really give you any guidance, which I was initially optimistic about because I'm a pretty big escape room enthusiast, and you're pretty much always dropped into those cold, and then you just figure out what you're supposed to do through environmental clues. I figured they would probably be using the RFID bracelets as part of the gameplay, and I envisioned there being loads of like tap points that you have to hunt for. So like maybe if you tapped a panel in the captain's area, you could download a secret file, or you could tap a touchpad next to an item to add that item to your inventory, and then you could use it later. So I guess I was envisioning something like a point-and-click adventure game, but in real life.
We found another purple sea urchin.
You know, like the NPCs ask you to fetch
6K
something
for all
them,
you can eat, Doomsday Bunker and a full
ship
show.
full of set dressing details and Easter eggs. Maybe you see an access card glued to a table, tap your band on it to collect it, and then you gain the ability to open a new door. Or you read a clue in a memo posted on a wall, and then text the code word to the proper character in the app, and then they give you your next task. Through that, I feel you could have some sense of discovery and forward momentum. I'm picturing something like, you need the Kyber crystal, but it fell in a crate with the alien frog monster and he's guarding it. You'll need to get the droid parts to trade for the Jogan fruit to distract the alien. And then once you've collected the Jogan fruit by tapping your band on it, you tap your band next to the frog's cage, the little frog animatronic wiggles around and makes eating sounds, and it backs away from a prop of a Kyber crystal, which you can see through the bars of the cage, and then the app is like, you got the crystal. Sorry, Skippy heard me saying the name of his favorite snack. I had to go get one for him. I imagine the kind of gameplay I'm describing would also inspire a cooperative spirit between the guests. Are you
I don't know what
Nastasha?
she's saying, but...
Have you found the droid processor? Sure, friend. It's over here. That's what they walk like. But no, they didn't have anything like that in the gameplay. They did have an item collecting mechanic, but... it was bad. See, the app they had us using is actually an extension of an existing Disney app, the Disney Parks Play app. This app was heavily promoted in the early days of Galaxy's Edge because they said you could use the app for interactive gameplay in the land. They called it the Star Wars Datapad Experience. You probably haven't heard of it because nobody ever talks about it because it isn't any fun.
Okay, wait, something's gonna happen.
It did nothing.
Okay.
I just can't get over the choose your own adventure, but also we don't give a fuck.
Why don't they blast the volume on this?
You know, in Rogue One, when they have to go out and then hack a panel and...
But also none of it matters.
Do you think anything's gonna move or happen? I'm beginning to lose hope.
It's the same sound.
Yeah.
Courtyard antenna.
Oh, maybe it'll do something.
Yeah, please do something. Maybe it's just not working yet.
Oh! I got it!
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh!
Basically, all it lets you do is scan QR codes on crates scattered around.
Bro, I just die when I think of auditions I've had in the past where I've auditioned for stuff like this. Instructions. Okay, so you're on your phone and then you're going to act really excited when a door opens. Oh my God, that was amazing. Oh my God, we have to do that again.
On Star Wars Land.
Wait, there's loads of cargo.
So many things to scan.
Look at that one over
and the app will
there.
present you with a rudimentary puzzle. Then when you solve it, it'll be like, there's a hyperdrive in this crate. And superficially, the hyperdrive will be added to the inventory in your profile. You can't do anything with it, so, you know, that's it. That's the game. It's like collecting virtual postage stamps. So anyway, since the Star Cruiser app is built out of the Star Wars datapad game, they also have crates in the hotel with QR codes on them. So if you like, you may scan those crates. I wouldn't really call this part of the gameplay. It was just something you could do. As in the theme park land, you can't use the items later. They're not connected to the story. And I've seen no evidence that they affect loyalty scores or anything else. There's no find the key, find the antidote, trade this item away to the NPC to get the item you need. It was just busy work, or maybe you could call it Easter eggs if you get joy from seeing small icons on your phone of things from Star Wars. But I assumed this part of the gameplay was just put in to occupy the really little kids who wouldn't sense the futility of what they were doing. I noticed immediately that there are these computer terminals throughout the ship. I think there are 6 to 8 of them total, and I believe they all work the same as each other. They just have multiple so they can be used by more guests simultaneously. But like, you don't have different options at different terminals, they're all the same. By the way, the terminals are not touch screens. They use a few large buttons that are below the screen. Touch screens probably would have taken too much wear and tear, so that's fine. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just mentioning this because you'll notice in my footage that every time I walk up to the screens, I start trying to slap my fingers against them. I just feel like it makes me look kind of stupid, and I know someone that's been is gonna remark on how I'm doing it wrong, so I'm getting ahead of that now. It's reflex, I promise. I did also use the buttons. It's just often when I'm slapping the screen, that's when my camera is pointed at the screen. My camera is looking where my fingers are slapping.
She's such
That's
a
how
dork.
I film
I
everything.
love it.
I slap everything. You just don't see it because I edit around it. Okay, anyway, moving on. You tap your band first to begin utilizing a terminal, which at first seemed promising. These terminals are presented in story like they're intended for the guests. Like they show the map of the ship and other innocuous stuff. But then there's also a password locked section of the computer that you're clearly supposed to break into.
Enter access code.
Let's hack it. Let's hack it.
Okay.
So
what do you think
none
the
of
access
these
code is?
screens
Jenny, you have to earn it.
But how?
worked.
You have to hack.
But how?
Okay, I found the first thread to pull at, the first puzzle to solve. I figured if there's a password, there's a way to get the password.
It's like the
we
Taco
must have
Bell
to
app
look
stand.
around. Maybe it's written down, like it's on a post-it next to the captain's chair. Maybe we have to talk to the captain. Maybe she uses her pet's name as the password. Maybe there's a clue hidden in one of the plaques next to all these artifacts in the atrium, or a puzzle
Ain't no
we can
way. They didn't
unscramble.
put that much
During
thought
the-
into it.
No.
I'm a little rusty. I'm a little
Oh my
rusty.
God. You're just showing.
Yeah.
I am
Dedication.
showing up.
During the ship's dedication,
I found out later that
She
that's
can
not the
read
case.
that?
According to other players' accounts, sometimes when you tap your band on the terminal next to the computer and try to go in the restricted files, you then receive a text in your app from the smuggler character. He says something to the effect of, "It looks like you're trying."
It's Orbet. Okay. It's not like, yeah, it's French. People speak French. No, this is a made up language in a made up world. Oh my God.
To hack into the terminal. You must be sneaky like me. Let me give you the password and you can help me with a job. And yeah, then he just tells you the password. It's kind of anticlimactic in a way I don't like. Maybe I'm the crazy one, but to me that
Every
doesn't really feel
language
like
is
earning
made
the
up.
password. Imagine if a video game worked like that. Like you try to open a door, you find that it's locked, and then an NPC immediately sprints over and just hands you the key. I wouldn't even really call that gameplay. I actually saw some fans saying online that this is how you triggered the smuggler storyline. They were like, if you want to be a smuggler, first thing, go to the computer terminal and try to get into the restricted files. Then you'll get a text from Wraith Cole. And no, you won't. I did that, and that didn't happen. And some people online tried to victim blame me when I pointed that out and were like, no, you have to do it first thing. And like, I don't know, I feel like I did it pretty much as soon as gameplay started. In my opinion, it seems
There's
like
a whole
sometimes
ass
it
website
happens,
to learn
and
the
sometimes it
language.
just doesn't. And if it
Ain't no
doesn't, you just
way.
don't have the password, sorry. This also undermines any ability for guests to work together, like I was saying earlier would be cute.
wait, what's this? What is
I
this?
think she knows Navi. That's
It
cute.
almost killed me. Oh my god.
In fact, at one point we asked these other passengers how they'd ended up on their mission thread, and they were so nice. They literally dropped what they were doing and walked us physically over to the computer they had used.
Okay, look, y'all, if you're going to spend time to learn a language, don't you want to learn one that's actually useful? Like, no? Okay.
Tried to walk us through all the same steps they had taken, and when we did the same thing, it didn't work for us, so we gave up. I saw a lot of this online, guests confidently telling others the exact action to perform to get a certain outcome, but anecdotally, it doesn't seem like the game works that way. It seems like it's actually a lot more luck-based than many of the participants realize. So we felt we had very quickly hit a dead end, and worse yet, we could see other players around us who had gotten the text with the computer password, or at least had gotten some other intro point to the story.
People learn French, it's not useful. That's a dig at me, and you're wrong.
There were kids happily tapping away at the restricted files, and I'm just standing in the middle of the atrium like, what did I miss?
An idiot.
What am I doing wrong?
I don't understand what people are doing. Class, it's 4 letters. Yeah. South. Thank you. I don't know. How did they get in? I'm so confused. I feel like we're missing something.
It just made me think there was some obvious clue I had failed to find, which was really demoralizing.
It's just like everyone's like deep in missions and I don't even know what they're doing. Oh, we're supposed to touch this for good luck. Okay, we did it. Maybe that'll help.
There are so many points in my footage where I'm just wandering aimlessly, wondering aloud what to do. You'll recall this experience is $2 per person per minute, so just keep that in mind. At some point, having hit a dead end in both the app and the computers, we just kind of started doing laps around the ship, hoping we'd encounter an activity.
Are we missing
Choose
something?
your own
See, people are, like,
adventure, but that
hacking and
adventure
stuff.
is
I already
fuck
feel
you.
Do you think the climate simulator's still open? Well, I guess it's the same. Other thing going on. I don't know if there'd be something going on, but I want to get into the cargo room.
Do you know what they call a streamer in French?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. Oh, we can
Hear
do
what the
elevator.
French call les
We haven't done that
incompetents.
yet.
I should have just taken the fire extinguisher off the wall and started spraying it around. You know, make my own fun. Occasionally we'd see a computer where a kid had accidentally stayed signed in, and we could see all the stuff that had been unlocked for them and presume that probably that represented some fun story thing they got to do.
Yeah, if
which
you
made us
wanted
feel
that,
even
you had to
worse.
pay more
Christopher
money.
didn't log out, and he has the access
Sorry.
to the alarms. Break access.
Behold Captain Kwanvin. Oh my god. Y'all, if I had not found streaming, this could have been the path. Oh my god. We're just gonna watch a little bit more. Let's see. We will finish this chapter and then we'll leave the rest for next
And
time.
I guess you guessed the last one. And he's not into the cargo hold either. Well, all right. I want in that cargo hold.
Other than using them to log into the computer terminals, there wasn't actually much functionality to the bracelets. There's a tap point on the droid, which is fun. I tapped my band on him, but I don't think anything happened when I did that. Also, a lot of Star Cruiser nerds are going to be like, that tap point doesn't do anything unless you ask his permission first, and he likes you, so this is a skill issue. But I did ask permission first. I have proof.
This guy's like, get me the fuck out of here.
I didn't even have to be told to do that. I'm just polite to droids, so there. But anyway, yeah, it didn't do anything. There were also the rooms with restricted access, like the engineering bay and the cargo hold. You would tap your bracelet on the pad next to the door and it would say, access denied. That was very tantalizing because it suggested you could accomplish something to unlock that room, like a real-life video game.
We take a lot of tools from screen-based RPGs and move them into the physical space. So we have literal locked doors. So we know that they're locked in a couple ways. That's an invitation if you're in a screen-based RPG, and also in our experience, to try and get into a locked door. There's something interesting on the other side of that door.
It's actually just like the computer password. After enough time passes, you'll get a text from a character, and it seems like it's random which one, and the character will be like, hey, I've got a job for you. Go to the engineering bay. I'm giving you access, and then you just have access. Also, near the end of day 1, we noticed that the restricted files on the computer just stopped requiring a password.
Look, I'm in the restricted systems. I'm authorized now.
Day 1 of a 2-day experience.
We still can't get in the cargo hold, though.
And when
They're
we
like,
looked,
yeah,
there
we
wasn't
don't
like
give a
anything
shit.
to do. Like, they showed switches to shut off
Yeah.
various systems, and I thought,
go
I guess if
ahead.
you're on the right story path, you might have an opportunity to use that and trigger a cool story event. But we weren't, so it wasn't interactive. We could just, like, look at the menu, but not do anything with it.
Look, I can sound the alarm. Aw, I can't. Oh, see, this is how I would have opened the door. Not that it matters now.
It seemed like the door locks worked that way too. Eventually, they just gave us access to the engineering room. And actually, the app didn't even tell us it had happened. We had to notice on our own.
I bet I can get into this. Well, maybe it'll just let me in now. Wait, yeah.
It all just felt so arbitrary. While exploring, we would
Oh,
occasionally
that's
run into
such a
characters,
bummer.
and we tried to take every available
Yeah,
opportunity
who the
to
fuck
talk
cares?
to them.
We
And just
got
in
our
case our
money.
interactions might affect our storyline, I wanted to be polite, but make it clear that we were on the first order path.
We really want to identify the issue, cut out the rot, as it were, and then let everyone get on with their vacation.
I'm always saying cut out the rot.
That is something you're always saying.
I'm always saying
You're
that.
always saying
Yeah.
that. Is that? Do you work with fruit? Is that something?
Yes. Yeah, but I'm also referring to like fugitives and things like that.
Of course, yeah.
When I talked to the captain, who I could tell was connected to the resistance path, I emphasized that I was afraid the resistance fugitives would ruin my luxurious trip, which doesn't sound very heroic to me. We never talked to Sammy, the main resistance hero,
Aw, she's
because he
trying
was
to
really popular
LARP.
with the kids and he was constantly swarmed.
Are you guys smuggling luggage?
No, guy's not here. We just showed up in the atrium.
It looks like you're smuggling some kind of luggage.
No, we're putting it in the cargo. This is the cargo.
Yeah, I'm
We
smuggling
never
this
talked to the
luggage and
smuggler,
putting it in
Wraith
my
Cole.
mom and
I
dad's
didn't
room.
wanna
That's
talk
what
to
they
him
told me
because
to
I didn't want
do.
the smuggler storyline, but we also just organically never had an opportunity to talk to him. We talked to Gaia and Uwani a lot, and I think they're both affiliated with the smuggler storyline, but we only really talked about Gaia's music, and neither of them ever asked
They
us
told
for
me to
anything.
take this luggage and smuggle it and put it in this one room.
What's your favorite song? Yeah, what's your favorite song?
I liked her, like, when she was just single songs on the HoloNet.
I hope she plays Rockstar Queen, her new single. Oh, we'll see you.
Wow. I don't know how you talk to her.
I believe Lieutenant Croy was the only actor affiliated with the First Order storyline, but we did bump into him several times, and every time we tried to be very direct. We supported his mission, those resistance fugitives sounded frightening, we wanted to help.
If we notice anything, what should we do?
Well, obviously report it to myself or one of the stormtroopers, although I suspect you'll get more sense out of me.
Likewise, we both texted Croy in the app, hoping to double our chances. At one point, I thought I was making real progress because the AI of Croy directly asked, "Can I trust you to help the First Order?" And of course, I clicked yes. But then he just stopped texting me.
Oh,
He ghosted
said,
me. It
"Eh."
was so embarrassing. While we were eating dinner on night 1, Lindsay did receive a text in the app from Lieutenant Croy asking her to go to the engineering room right away and scan some
Ghosted
schematic
by
for
an
him or something.
AI.
Obviously, we couldn't at that moment because we were eating a formal multi-course dinner with a show, theoretically.
I LARPed
And in
so
my
hard
opinion,
this
it's a
park
little
once they gave me a
weird the app
special
sent
badge
us
where
that
so other
because,
castmates would do more
the app
roleplay
knew we were
stuff
at
with
dinner,
me.
right? Like, the dinner was at a specific time and for a set duration,
Oh
and that was
my.
loaded into the schedule before anything else. But I figured maybe that meant the task wasn't
Awesome.
time sensitive, and we would just go when we got the chance. In the middle of the dinner show, Sammy showed up with Chewbacca, trying to smuggle him across the dining room without the First Order noticing. This was our first direct encounter with Sammy. When he reached our table, we tried to get in his way and get Lieutenant Croy's
Oh, the
attention.
pole.
No, this is just a normal Wookiee named Tom.
Tom?
Don't be scared.
He and Chewbacca did get caught, which was
A
obviously
Wookiee
a
named
pre-scripted event that
Tom?
happens on every cruise, but it's the thought that counts. Sorry, I know my footage isn't very good, but Chewbacca is getting arrested behind that pole. Then when our check came, the waiter was like, "It looks like there's something extra with your check." And it was a torn up piece of a secret message, which was very exciting. We realized that the 2 tables next to us also received pieces of the message, and I thought we'd have to put all our pieces together to get the message, which would be a fun bit of cooperative play. But when we
Yeah.
put them together, we realized that it was unnecessary because they all contained
Oh.
equivalent information. I also looked around the
Oh.
room and I think I saw at least one other trio of tables that got these notes. For all I know, everybody got them, or maybe people
Oh.
got different ones from different characters. The secret message turned out to be, weirdly, from Sammy. He was like, meet me at 9:40 p.m. in the atrium. I'm trying to get Chewbacca out of jail and I need your help. And I'm like, our help? We're the ones that got you into this mess. Clearly, we had been put on the resistance path, which made no sense. But frankly, after
Choose your own adventure,
I was just
remember?
happy to have any
Fuck
task
you.
at all. And it sounded like we were getting some kind of exclusive story moment, so of course we decided we should go. But when the time came, on our way to the atrium to meet Sammy, who should we run into in the stairwell but Chewbacca? Already walking around free, and a gaggle of kids around him. I'm not sure if they handed out dozens of those secret notes, or if this was just the crowd of kids that always follows Sammy around. According to my footage's metadata, this clip was filmed 3 minutes before the time we were supposed to meet Sammy in the atrium. So we weren't super early, but we wouldn't have been late.
This
so I don't know
is
what happened
so
with Chewbacca.
sad.
I guess they started early or something. Honestly, it must have been pretty early, because, like, he had been in the brig downstairs. We were gonna meet in the atrium, all walk down to the brig, get him out. But when we saw him, he was coming down the stairs, which means at some point he had already been broken out of the brig, gone up to the
Pay
atrium,
no
and was
attention
now
to the man behind the
descending
curtain.
again. And presumably in that time, a meeting happened to discuss how they were going to break Chewbacca out. So, like, what, did they start 40 minutes early? But anyway, it seemed like the exciting part was already over. And it was so crowded, we had no hope of getting a word with anybody anyway.
man.
So we just headed out. No big deal. I guess we weren't even trying to get that storyline. It just would have been nice to do something. Next, we decided to try following up on that text we had gotten during dinner from Croy. So we went back downstairs to the engineering bay to scan the thing that he wanted. When we got there, we were really surprised to see that the Croy actor was actually physically there. I'm immediately optimistic that this is going to put us in some story moment. So I'm just like, Chewbacca is walking free. I'm sorry, I never liked Chewbacca. I have no reason to keep his secrets. But Croy is just like, why should I trust you?
We saw him in the brig, and then he was walking around. It was the weirdest thing.
I see. You've come here to further the cause of the younglings who've been trying to run me around the houses.
Oh.
No, I
We really
appreciate the
saw
effort, but you will not get one around me this time.
Wow. And like, come on, dude, we're on your side. But obviously the actor doesn't know that. It's not really his fault. And obviously he hasn't got a job for us. I figured at the time maybe the actors just aren't fully aware what's going on in the app, but whatever. We can at least do what
Nobody
the
knows
AI
what's
version of
going
Croy wanted
on.
from us. Neither of us remembered exactly what that entailed, so I asked Lindsay to look at the app again. But when she pulled open her text thread with Croy, the text in
fucking
question had
app.
actually been deleted.
What should we do? What was the task in the app for you?
Bro's like, I don't know, man. It's not on the script. I don't give a fuck.
Maybe it's because we took too long to act on it, but if that mattered, why would it have sent it to us in the middle of a dinner that it knew we were at? Isn't that the whole point of the micromanaged schedule and the app and everything? So why would it have given us that task if it knew we couldn't complete it in time? I think that's probably another clue that the technology was
you gotta
not
pay
working
more.
as it should. So
You
with
gotta pay
nothing to
more
do,
money,
we poked
so-
around a little in the
so you have
engineering
more
bay,
time
and
to
then we
complete
got
it.
bored and we left.
We should do these, whatever they are. Oh wait, we did. We'll do something.
I really felt like I couldn't catch a break all day. Mind you, at this point, the $6,000 experience was already half over, and I
Oh
felt like I
my
hadn't even been able to
God.
dip my toes into the story. Just thwarted at every turn. Even watching back my
Thwarted
footage
at
now
every
is secondhand frustrating because I so viscerally remember spending the whole day so badly wanting to engage with the game I had been promised and not being able to. Like I said, I had hoped to be First Order, but really I'd been prepared to say yes to anything a character asked me. But obviously I hadn't been given anything to say yes to. And whenever I thought I was being given an
There was
intro
a
into some plot thread,
$12,000
it didn't work out
experience
for
everyone
one
else
reason
was
or
on.
another. Not only did I feel like I was barred from participating, I was even barred from watching. By a literal bar. After the characters went to bed and we returned to our room, Lindsay noticed that in the app there's a tab with all the different characters. It tracks how familiar they are with you and how much they trust you. So I would imagine it's scored based on how long you spend interacting with them in person and in the app, and then whether you respond to them positively or negatively. And this screen really explained the day I was having. Okay, so mine looked like this. You'll notice that my trust score with literally every character was neutral, so despite my best efforts, it was basically as if I hadn't been playing at all. Okay, now let's look at my familiarity scores, which are even more interesting to me. Lenka Mock
They
and
just
Wraith Cole look about
arbitrarily
right.
made it
They both say
up.
low familiarity. I was briefly greeted
They're like,
by Lenka
yeah,
Mock
just
and I
give her
never spoke
neutral.
to Wraith Cole at all, so that makes sense to me. Sasha says medium familiarity, and I only met her once at lightsaber training, but she did ask me my name and interact with me a couple times, so Okay, I guess that feels medium. But Lieutenant Croy also says medium, even though I've been trying to talk to him all day, both on the app and in person. And there was that time I pledged my loyalty to him and he left me on red. My familiarity with Sammy was high, even though I hadn't exchanged words with him ever at any point. Meanwhile, my familiarity score with Captain Keevan was low, even though I'd made pleasant small talk with her at least 3 separate times that day. In the app, the AI version of Captain Keevan actually sent me a text that night saying, "Sorry, I know we haven't gotten much time together today." But yes, we have! What's going on here? When we woke up on day 2 and it had given us all our missions, we had a few different options. We had texts from Sammy, Captain Keevan, and
whack.
Saja. And you'll notice that not only do those missions not line up with how I'd been trying to play out the story, they don't even really make sense with my stats in the app. At that point, we just had to surrender ourselves to the idea that nothing in the story was going to make sense and try to invest ourselves in the path we had been arbitrarily placed onto for the time we had left. Okay, so why did this happen? What broke? I have a few guesses.
Okay, so quick little summary. If you're lost or you're just tuning in, basically the big part that was advertised for this fucking thousands of dollars worth of experience was the choose your own adventure. Okay, that people are here because of the immersion, because they are playing along with the story. All right, it's LARPing. It's Star Wars LARPing, but none of it worked. The stupid app that they're supposed to use, the prompts that they get, the little adventures they're supposed to go on, none of it worked. Choose your own adventure. That's why I keep saying, except we don't give a fuck, because none of this worked. None of the choices mattered. The app is stupid. Nothing is working.
Scenario 1, the gameplay didn't actually work at all for anyone, and it was a big scam. You're all just assigned to a story path at random. With only 3 major story threads, it's possible that for some guests, their story path would match up with the actions they're taking by pure coincidence. The broken clock being right twice a day kind of thing. Confirmation bias would then convince them that the story was a direct result of their actions. They get a message from the Resistance and say, "Wow, that must be because I told Captain Keevan I was a fan of Princess Leia." But in actuality, it's just what would have happened anyway, predetermined by an algorithm. That would be obviously pretty bad. I have seen other guests with the same feedback as me, that they consciously tried to get one specific path and it didn't work at all and they left disappointed. But I don't have like statistical data on how often this occurred, and I highly doubt Disney will ever release that information, if they even tracked it at all. So it's impossible to really know. But I think if this problem was more widespread, it would have become more apparent, so I'm going to charitably rule this one out. Scenario 2. The gameplay worked for the majority of guests, but each story path had a finite number of players it could accommodate, and so the algorithm was trained to move some players into open slots in the schedule, regardless of their story choices. The idea here is that we were just the sacrificial lambs of our trip, shuffled into open spots to maintain even distribution of guests across all story scenes at the expense of our own experience, but facilitating other people's choose-your-own-adventure gameplay. The idea of this one makes me so angry. Like, I would be so upset if I found out that at this price point they were knowingly sacrificing the interactivity for some unlucky guests just to keep the game running smoothly. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised at all to find out that this was the case, especially considering they designed the dining room so that some unlucky tables were behind poles. Scenario 3, random glitch. It worked for some people, it didn't work for other people. Bad luck, etc. This is my main theory. It coincides really well with what I've heard about the way the app worked in tandem with the actors. I mean, I showed you our loyalty scores, and it certainly appears that ours wasn't tracking anything we did at all. The designers probably programmed in some kind of grandma mode, where a guest who doesn't participate in the gameplay at all and just sleeps in the room all day is randomly assigned a story path in case they want to play later. It seems to me like whatever actions we took in the app or in person, the system just wasn't registering it ever. So maybe the app saw a lack of data, put us in
and again, none of this acceptable considering how much fucking money it cost.
Mode, and then randomly put us on the Resistance path. I don't know how such a critical failure could happen, and honestly, this one makes me pretty mad to think about too. Like, for an experience that's so dependent on an app, glitches do feel inevitable. To be honest, anyone who's familiar with Disney parks will know that they're extremely bad at building apps and always have tons of glitches. But in the theme parks, the apps just determine whether you can get through the turnstiles in a timely fashion, or if you can book your next fast pass. On the Star Cruiser, the app determines whether your $6,000 experience will work at all in the way it was advertised to, or whether you'll be sitting on the sidelines all day with nothing to do. In my opinion, if this glitch is something that could happen, they needed a better fail-safe. Like, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe if the system detected 0 input from a player, it could flag that as a problem in the system, at which point a human employee could try to intervene and gauge what story that person was trying to do. And, you know, make sure by brute force that they got put in some kind of story event. Ideally, I think this concierge employee should have been dressed as Yoda and kind of shamble in like a scary suit and be like, no, I must. With which side do you lord?
I feel like the problem was trying to do this shit through the app. Sounds like they just were not at all, they were not at all prepared or equipped to handle doing an immersive story experience like this. And had they just stuck with human actors, you know, doing like dinner theater type mystery theater type of thing, then maybe it would have worked better.
She's lying. I'm always just looking for an excuse to do my Yoda impression because it's so good. Having a person intervene would obviously be a little immersion breaking and kind of a clunky solution, but it's better than what they had, which was no solution at all. I heard after my trip that a lot of guests had similar problems to us. One mom that went with her kids said that on day 2, she went to the front desk in tears and pointed out that their story mechanic wasn't working. And then she said the people at the front desk basically just pulled out a tablet and were like, I'm so sorry, just tell us what story scenes you want to be in and we'll put you in those. And it's good to know that such a solution existed, but obviously by the time you get to that point, the experience you've been sold on has already been ruined, because that's not immersive. Also, because of the nature of the experience and the cost of it, most of your guests are going to be there for their first and only time. So it's probably going to take them a while to even realize that something is objectively wrong. It certainly didn't occur to us that we could go to the front desk about this, so we were just kind of like, hey, the game didn't work. The thing that was central to this entire experience, it was broken for us. And we can't get a refund or come back. It's just ruined. And that really sucks.
Yeah.
And that was our experience. I also need to
doing
point
it through
out
the
in
app
the
gives
interest
the
of
illusion of an
transparency
immersive
that many
experience,
of
so
the
Disney
people
doesn't
brought
have to
out
put in
for
the
press
effort or the
and
cost.
influencer marketing actually didn't experience the gameplay. They were given an abridged presentation of the story and then dropped into a play scene. And from what I can tell, they didn't interact with the app at all.
Now we only get 4 hours aboard, so it is going to be a bit of an abbreviated experience.
For those of you with blue wristbands, you will go to lightsaber training with our incredible Saja. And those of you with white wristbands will meet your group leader for your first activity.
So you're taking on the role of First Order loyalists for this next scene, all right?
We're jumping around a little bit in the timeline, so we're on day 2, and Lieutenant Croy, who you guys just saw board the ship, has sent us a message on our data pad, and after we visited Batu, we are going to meet him.
We're skipping back in time by a few hours. You maybe haven't totally decided your allegiance yet,
I would
but
have
you've
demanded a
been
refund.
to join in the ship's
I would have been like,
activities.
nope.
Now, Sasha have more of their stories
The
than what
main
you're seeing
point,
here. In fact,
the
all
main
of our
part of
characters
this
do.
fucking shit
And
isn't
that's something
working.
that our guests
Give me my money back.
discover, of course, when they're here aboard the Halcyon.
Some influencers did experience the full-length stay, but not all of them. It was sort of a pecking order. Only the biggest publications and influencers with the highest follower counts got to do the whole thing. And not to name names, but I did notice some familiar faces in the background of the videos of the abridged experience who later claimed on their own social media that they did the full thing.
Oh.
Which feels a little deceptive.
Shade 'em.
But what else should we expect from a channel that buys subscribers? I can say that. You're never going to figure out who I'm talking about. So I guess my point is, just be a cautious consumer of any influencer reviews. Except mine. Also, for the record, this makes me really
I love
angry.
when very sweet-natured
making
people
me angry in this
do
section.
shade.
This is like if you toured a gourmet restaurant and the chef gave you only the dessert, and then before bringing out the dessert, he said, to provide some context,
Name names.
the guests eating this dessert will have just enjoyed an amazing dinner. And then you go home and write a review like, this restaurant is fantastic. After an amazing dinner, we ate a delicious dessert. You should definitely spend $6,000 to eat at this restaurant. Honestly, how dare they? I'm just gonna get angrier as it goes, and we're only halfway. Part 11, main attractions.
Okay.
The main selling point.
And we're only halfway. Do you know what's amazing is you watch the first hour of that and you go, there was so much in that. There's no way there can be 3 more hours. There ain't no way. But then there are. There are 3 more hours. We're only at part 11. That was 2 hours. And I'm going to save the rest of this for tomorrow. So if you have a burning desire to finish this, then fine, whatever, traitor. But otherwise, you have my pinky promise that we will finish this, that we'll finish it tomorrow. But yeah, we're only halfway with it.